Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, Ko-Fi and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Chris Wouters, Amish Earther, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, the name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, J Melts 24, Unimento, M Iron 26, Eric Troche, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKeegan, Retro Bill, Level Plain Poem, Cannabear, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Hello, Neil.
Nathan's got everything running, I'm assuming. I'm glad, happy. Sure he's happy. What's up, Refracted?
Trying to get out of my feelings.
It's one of those things. The funny thing I wanted to tell you is he accused Nathan of listening to trolls, but that's what he's doing. He's listening to his little dominions over there and his show, and he's totally missing it. Totally missing it. Has no clue. He's bewildered at how he was treated the other day. I don't understand.
I think Adam said everything that needed to be said to him. He was very concerned.
That's why he's bewildered. Nathan as well. I mean, he ended it with me. I'm done with him. I'm trying to help him. Let him know what loyalty is. Let him know what friendship is. Let him know what having each other's back is. You want to you enjoy hanging, then come on. You got to be a certain way. You can't just do that and think it's okay. You thought he was going to be able to stroll back in. And for that, I'm annoying? Okay. I'm done. Finished. Move on.
Well, whether they listen or people tell them, this show is like a constant ripple in the middle of the flat Earth pond. So whatever's said here usually gets echoed out.
No, he was listening. He was listening to the show when he brought him up. When Adam comes in, ask Adam, he'll tell you. Bob Durham was listening.
I missed all that. What was Rob Durham listening about?
Something about the gyroscope. He said that QE was wrong about something that he said. So, and Adam, the other night, was it on the Marathon show or was it on a Ball Busters? It was Tuesday's show. Towards the end of it, everybody was laughing at Adam, but, the outsiders.
Nobody was laughing at Adam. I don't think.
Not none of us. Not us. There was other people, maybe in chat or. But Adam wants to find out what's going on, so he wants to hear what Rob has to say.
Oh, so we just heard he's wrong and not given a reason why he's wrong?
Well,
Well,
he
from
wanted
what
to come on, but I don't think QE wanted to. I don't know.
the thing
We got to wait for Adam to come on.
the thing is, the gyro compass is only pointing in a direction. The software that is set up to, whether it's to give you relative coordinates or whatever, may be giving you information, but it's not the gyro compass.
Okay, John, let me just stop you here. When was the last time you used one? When was the last time you held one? Not that that means anything, but it does when the guy's got one sitting on his kitchen table. That's what Adam's point is.
That's fine. I could
So
probably
let's hear what
build
he has to
one.
say.
I could probably
I'm
fucking
sure
build
you
one now.
I'm sure you can. But this particular one, he's got right in his table. I don't even think he knows, but let's find out.
If he don't know, then why is he telling everybody that somebody's wrong?
I said, he didn't say that. I said he probably don't even know.
You just want to hear him out, right? Rob Durham's not the type
Yeah.
of guy to just try and type it out in 3 sentences if he needs an explanation. Do we even know what the general gist of what was being discussed for him to object to might be?
I think it has to do with how it finds north.
See, it
That
doesn't.
was the whole
software-
thing.
Okay, so straight away we're into a problem because that's not beyond my understanding, unless I'm wrong, which is to say my understanding of how it works is you set it, you spin it up, and you point it north.
Yeah. This is a gyro compass, I think.
Yes.
That's what Adam was saying.
Yes, a gyro compass, which is just a gyro that you're going to point north. Couldn't be any more crude about how to describe it, but that is literally all it is, as far as I understand. Now, if somebody's going to suggest that a gyroscope can seek north, how?
Well, now a gyroscope can find a horizontal plane of reference. It can do that.
But can it find north?
Well, that's the thing. The software that's with it is the issue. It's not the gyro or the compass. It's the software. And that's what the debate's going to be about, is what the software is doing. Because the compass points in a direction and the gyro maintains a fixed frame of reference. So we know what they're doing. The software is the issue.
It sounds like I would probably agree with you, because when you talk about what a compass does and when you talk about what a gyro does, it ain't complicated, is it? So if you're going to say, well, we take this data and we insert them into the latitude grid on an azimuthal equidistant projection, and we take magnetic declination into account when we plot out this chart and reference it with the gyro when pointing north and traversing over these magnetic field lines, that's all put into the computer and it spits out this. You're like, yeah, but what's the technology doing? Maintaining a fixed frame of reference and pointing north, and that's it. Unless I'm very much mistaken. That is literally it, is it not?
Well, that's what Adam said.
Even if it's not, even if it's not just doing that, because the technology would include the software, it's going to use the coordinate system that they use in celestial navigation. So what's the problem? I'm still not seeing it.
Hopefully we'll find out from Rob, who's very well respected amongst us.
Absolutely. And that's what Adam's saying. Everything that QE, he played some clips because QE came in after the end of the show. We were still in discussing it. And QE bounced back in. And he started playing some numpty clips about finding north, how it's not sentient, it's just a freaking machine. But Adam's objection is he knows all these things. Like he's telling him something he knows. But if Rob has an issue with something, then just bring him in and let's hear what the issue is.
I can tell you right now, it's going to be a software related issue after it's established what the gyro compass does.
Well, I'm for it. I'm all for it because it doesn't make any difference to what we do here. A better understanding of gyro compasses might be folly. It might be deeply influential on our subject matter and its influence on people's ability to understand Earth's flat. Either way, it's fascinating, isn't it? It's part of the subject for whatever reason, gyros. Fine. But beyond being a flat Earth proof, as John put it earlier, being able to establish a horizontal plane of reference, I mean, great. We used to, back in the day, Rob Durham was one of them, point that out. This proves a flat Earth right here. And you can utilise it in a multitude of different ways to demonstrate how there is no movement in the cage as you traverse the land, exactly as it's mapped out and surveyed to be. And when you get into these sorts of proofs, you get into the wrangle-dangle of people telling you that it's automatically adjusting, or you get into the pendulous vanes in an aircraft that are claimed to be adjusting this thing to counteract the force that they say was gravity, and have it self-correct as it moves around the surface of a presupposed ball. You get into all of these arguments. But in reality, the simple principle of a gyroscope proves Earth's flat, as far as I am concerned. And Rob was one of the people back in the day to actually say that, really early on too.
Well, the old argument used to be that the fixed plane of reference does not rotate and is dealing with Earth's rotation. But you can't have a horizontal, a level frame of reference if level is curving.
No, so the belief in a sphere defies the principle of a gyroscope, first and foremost, is what you're saying. Because just to describe what a gyro does requires a flat plane of reference.
Yes, and there is no flat plane of reference on a sphere, ever.
I mean, why would we be surprised? Their worldview violates the first law of thermodynamics, the second law of thermodynamics, perspective. Well, okay, this perspective is not a law, but just everything that we experience in reality, like in order to believe this worldview, a principle of one thing or another is violated just for the sake of conversation. Navigation is bastardized. Every like, what are they? Oh, bro, I don't know.
Eli, you hit it right in the head. That's it. Everything's bastardized.
I don't have an issue you calling them laws of perspective. Hashtag shit shrinks.
I don't know. Kiwi said it's not an effing law.
No, I said I have no problem
what?
with you. I didn't say that. I said I've got no problem you describing it as a law. If you want to describe the law of perspective, as in, I would say hashtag shit shrinks. But what I said was I don't have a problem with you saying that because you apologise for it like it's an issue. Now, if QE was here, maybe he would jump on you and go, ain't a frigging law. Well, I'm not QE number one, but I'm saying I don't have an issue with that. Because it is a fact of life. You know, when you talk about laws of nature, you talk about stuff that occurs always. Hashtag shit shrinks, as far as I am concerned, is one of them, hence me not having an objection. I wasn't suggesting that you would define it as a law of nature. I'm just saying that I don't have an objection to you phrasing it that way. You just shouldn't feel the need to apologise.
Understood. But for the listeners, I guess a law of nature would be different because it's something that is happening outside of yourself versus our perspective is purely optical based, which is a part of, I mean, you know, it's the nature of our eyes, I guess, but there's obviously a difference.
When you talk about the first law and second law, as you did earlier, if you go down deep enough, it's still arbitrary. You know, that convention that we have described upon with very, very good descriptions, don't get me wrong, will we have decided that that's going to be called the first law of thermodynamics, the second law of thermodynamics, it's still not even to a degree. It is arbitrary when you get down to the nitty gritty of it. Now that's where the Socratic method comes in, and that's all we're doing really. We're just discussing the semantics of whether or not you're a weasel or a saint for calling something a law when it isn't. Because it's putting an intonation on it that I feel is required when it comes to something so critical in this subject matter. That's perspective. Just saying. We have the power to change the tone and meaning of some of these words that we use. Their disregard in the case of perspective is what we currently have as a society. How we treat that word when we're considering the ground we stand upon. It's been literally disregarded, treated as though it's just something in art. Well, as people, we have the power to change that. And a step in the right direction is to start not necessarily misdescribing it or inaccurately terming it with a law, but in a colloquial sense, I see that as very appropriate. There you go. That's as concise as I can be, Eli.
Yeah, fair enough.
Not to change the subject, but did you see the answer that Gemini, what is that, like an AI program, had to say about the black swan?
No idea. Go on.
There is no widely accepted image considered a black swan globe killer photo within the flat Earth community. Flat Earth proponents often present a variety
That's
of
just a lie.
arguments or
Go ahead.
supposed visual evidence to challenge the spherical shape of the Earth. But these arguments are generally based on misunderstanding of science and perspective. Oh boy. That's the rebuttal?
See, what should wake you up to the monster is something is true. And then Google, for whatever reason, is promoting to you that what you thought was true is not true. I just spoke to someone over the week about, what was it? It was dang, now it left my mind. What were we talking about? Oh, we're talking about Comet Neowise in 2020. And I said, I guarantee you that you're not going to accept what you know to be true. You're going to go with the source. So I say Comet Neowise, they say, was 63 million miles away. And he says, okay. And I say, it's 3 miles wide in diameter and we can see it with the naked eye. And he says, no, that's wrong. There's no way. That's wrong. So I pulled it up on Google. Sure enough, it was exactly as I say. And he said, well, I stand corrected. And I said, wait a minute. So something is ridiculous. You decided because of what do you call that? An authoritative source. You change your mind, not because of any experience, not because of any, gainful knowledge that you had from doing anything, research anything. You just, because a source says that you can see something 63 million miles away, 3 miles wide in diameter, you feel like you're wrong.
Yes.
Can you justify that? He said no.
Because I can tell you why too. I found this out when I went on Steve McClown's show. And one of the very first questions that was asked is, do you believe that consensus dictates our reality? And I thought, well, this is an easy opener. Obviously, answers no. And in unison, they all said yes.
I was just going to say consensus rules, Eli, before Nathan came in with that. Yeah, the consensus says that's what it is. That's what it is.
I was horrified when I heard that. That was a moment of true contemplation. I didn't know society was like that. I had no idea. I was truly ignorant of that. It was quite a shock.
Yep.
Well, Nathan, how can everybody be wrong, Nathan?
Yeah,
But it's like for us,
I know all the fallacious reasoning that goes behind it when they put that to us now, and why that's the case, because that's the society that's been built up. You know, people will just cuck to whatever news report tells them is the case.
and it's hard to believe, but that's what I meant when I say you kind of wake up to the monster being, holy crap, like when I thought perhaps this was just, some niche thing that I was dealing with, but in fact, in general, the world is fine. When you look at something like that, you're like, ooh, that's on a quote unquote global scale. Perhaps everything's not fine.
It's the they live sunglasses, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep.
And we fight the trolls, like the battle between Roddy Piper and the black guy that is trying to force to have the glasses on, and he just won't have it. And they end in a full-on fist fight, don't they?
I find that very racial that you knew Roddy Piper's name, but you didn't know the black guy's name.
He's called Black Guy. No, I don't know his name. Why? Is he famous?
He was actually in, you know what other movie he was in? To Live and Die in L.A. He played a good part in that.
Oh, that
No,
blockbuster.
was he? Yeah, same guy.
Blockbuster I've never heard of. Yes, of course, he's from that. How dare I call him the Black Guy?
You never heard of the movie To Live and Die in L.A.?
No.
It's one of Willem Dafoe's first movies. He was the counterfeiter. You would like it, Nathan.
Willem
Excellent
Dafoe,
car chase in it.
the guy from Spider-Man.
Correct. It was mid '80s, and
I've never
he
seen it
played
either.
like a he played counterfeiter.
Oh, I
Really
remember.
good one too.
Yeah, I was watching it while I was suckling on my mum's tits.
But you could go back. They still have them. It's a great movie. There is a car chase in there that rivals Papa Doyle. What's his name? From the French
Well,
Connection.
this is a great segue away from my point about the glasses and the society that reveals itself to you. Suddenly it's become some racial slant against a character actor I don't know. Bloody hellfire. I give up.
I was only joking.
If it had been Morgan Freeman and some nobody, I'd have been Morgan Freeman and that white guy.
Yeah, he didn't have too many. He was never a lead actor. Like if it was Carl Weathers, you would have said that fight with Carl Weathers and Roddy Piper. I understand what you're saying.
Still nowhere near the point I was making, but there we go. Yes, that's wonderful. Glad we dealt with the racial aspect that was oh so important to my point.
It was a joke. It's only kidding, man. So Nathan, everything good with the electric, or they still have some things to do?
Yeah, our cowboy took out half the heating system, but the electrics is not getting better. So having a professional electrician, a proper electrician actually do it instead of some cowboy that I quickly lost my patience with and ended in a row with and kicking him out. It was nice to have proper electricians doing the job properly and efficiently. And they got it all done in a day, with the exception of things like tarting up the corner pieces of trunking where they change levels, and the cowboy put a screw into a radiator where it shouldn't have been and blew a board that's inside it. Water tank doesn't heat water anymore, and there's a radiator. To be fair, I did know about the heater in the bathroom. It was already broken, but it's just another thing that does need to be addressed. I was saying to the builder bod, I'm sure there's much more efficient heaters now that aren't 2 kilowatts and on a pull string in a bathroom, which to me seems lethal, but they're fairly common here. Anyway, I just want some low voltage or low wattage modern thing that's going to be flat to the wall and just a electric heater. Anyway, very boring stuff now, but the bit where I couldn't broadcast is over, because as far as I'm concerned, these sockets are as they were, tested on a ring main that's perfect. So what is there else to do?
Learn from your mistakes, and next time you need a job, you hire a professional, like you did.
Well,
I understand when it's money's tight,
well, actually,
like
that's not how it progressed.
you're limited.
The way it progressed is as follows, right? So, because I'm colorblind, I'm reluctant to do anything, especially in this flat with 1960s wiring. So, what I did when we found a smashed plug socket behind a cupboard was I changed it. Now, what I then did was my wife found an electrician on Facebook from some mum's group, and he came out and double checked that I'd actually resolved the fault, yeah? And at the time, we were having overloads if we used too many devices. And the dishwasher then failed. So this is the reason he then comes back after addressing a plug socket. So up until then, we paid him 60 quid for coming out as an emergency or whatever he came out for to look at this dishwasher and check a plug socket. He finds the fault and corrects it. So there's a loose wire. He tightens it up and says, you might have got away with it. It might just hold. It might just be fine. So at that point, you think this guy is very efficient. He's competent. He's quickly razzed his way around all these different points and found the issue and then corrected it back at the board. And he's not trying to flog us anything. He's corrected an issue without any parts. And it's just like, you might just get away with it. It might just carry on as normal. You're like, great. Then when it keeps on tripping, you're like, okay, this is obviously a problem. So you get back in touch with somebody you've just used and go, no, I do think we're going to need a new board. Can you go out and price up a board for us? Which he does, and he comes back and he's like, yeah, these boards cost a bit more than I was hoping. They used to be about 80 quid back in the day. Now they're like 150. Plus I'll need this and that, a couple of Henley blocks and roller wire. And it just gives us a list of stuff. And we're like, okay, fine. Here's 300 quid. Get the job done. No problem. We'll pay you the other half. He quoted 600 quid when it's all done. From that point on, nightmares ensued as things started to go worse and worse and worse with this obvious idiot cowboy or con man. Either way, it doesn't bother me, which it's just unfortunate that we ended up in that position. Now, at that point, we've got a board that isn't suitable, 300 quid down. We've still got that board. It's been taken off the wall now. And a cowboy that's not resolving problems, claiming he's got a pregnant wife that's imminently giving birth. Like I say, sniffs of a con man. So at the point that he wants more money for a job that isn't finished, I told him to sod off and called in a load of other electricians. So you can see how you progress from, oh, this guy seems competent, and yes, we do need a new board. Can you do that? Is that within your capabilities? Yes. How much? Great. Let us know which ones, and we'll have a look at them, and we'll go from there. That's how most trades negotiations in this flat have taken place ever since I've been here, and it's nothing out of the ordinary. But out of the 20 builders and bods I've had through this building since I've lived here, having one that's a complete cowboy is like, wow, it's going to happen eventually. I'm just glad he didn't take us for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and in the process destroyed more and more and more stuff. So just one of them.
Usually
Yeah,
the
he got
giveaway.
you.
Yeah, usually the giveaway is when you know more about the electrical system than the person who's supposed to fix the electrical system. That's usually a dead giveaway.
Well, there were subtle things that he did that almost seemed like he was either completely incompetent or intentionally going out of his way to screw my electrics. I'll give you an example. The earth for this building runs along the actual trunking. It's like very thick metal trunking that carries it, rather than on twin and earth cable. So it's like 70s design. So when they're testing it, they put their meters on the live and on the back case that the socket actually goes into. Anyway, that's important that it's maintained and kept integral. And what he'd done at the fuse board was taken this copper ring off this the end of the trunking where it comes into the fuse board, which is properly earthed. This ring clamps down that trunking, if you will, to the board so that the whole system is earthed. And what he'd done is he'd taken this ring off, and to get it off, he'd have had to, when the board was all disconnected and all the old fuse board was off, physically slip it off the end of all of the wires. And then he hung it on one of our coat hooks and then proceeded to do the job, which meant that from that point on, the Earth wasn't clamped down and fully attached. But he would have had to have gone out of his way to do that. And by the time it was all wired up, sure, well, you would have had to. There would be no other way of getting it back on other than completely stripping it, unwiring it, and then slipping it back over all that big, massive bunch of cables, and then tightening it back down again. So you're almost like, I remember when the guy who did it yesterday showed me that, and I said to him, "Oh, right, it clamps the Earth down to the whole system." Before he finished his sentence, he was like, "Yeah, exactly." I was like, "Well, I can't quite believe he's done that." And he's like, "Yeah, I found it hanging on this hook." I was like, "Wow, okay, that's bonkers." But like I say, things like
Nathan,
that, like,
when you say Earth, do you mean grounded?
yeah, we call it Earth ground, same thing.
Okay, all right, I figured it out. Go ahead.
Anyway, when he told me that, I remember Brian saying some people are just narcissists. They like inflicting pain on people and will go out of their way to do it, even if they are competent. And like I say, when he first came round at what I would consider a cheap price, I phoned round a load of people how much to change the plug socket, because it was all hanging off the wall and, looked dangerous. And he was on par, maybe a little bit cheaper with every other electrician that I phoned. And my wife happened to find him on a mum's group that she likes supporting. So, like, oh, fine, great. We'll use some local family man electrician that's, in a family group. That was my wife's logic, at least. There you go. It's just like I say, it seemed like he was competent because he was, in terms of finding faults that I hadn't been able to find, and he tracked it down fairly efficiently and at a reasonable cost. So, like you say, when you get to that point and then you find out that the guy is seemingly doing things that are intentionally bad, you'd have to go out of your way. If you didn't know what you're doing, you wouldn't know to remove the nut, and there's no point to remove it. But yeah, he's intentionally removed it and slipped it off all the incoming mains leads for the building. You're like, what the hell? Maybe this guy's a nutter or just out to screw people intentionally.
Hey Nathan, you're saying that the guy did some stuff that would only happen if you knew what you were doing and it was intentional.
I think so, yeah.
I'll talk to you about this maybe later on. There's some stuff I want to say about it, but I don't want to say it here on the show.
Oh, okay. Fine,
Morning,
yeah.
guys.
Morning. What time is it, by the way? Oh, shit.
Hey, everyone.
I've completely... Oh, no, it's 2:05. Completely, lost myself in the discussion, and we're already late for the first live show back after a massive delay. That's absolutely appalling, isn't it?
We're not late for getting there exactly when we're supposed to get there.
Exactly, chocolate.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
Yo.
Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon. It's good to have you all. It's good to be back. Been slightly horrendous here for the last 10 days, maybe even 2 weeks, with various electrical problems which have been resolved at a pinch by a local electrical firm who came out after seeing the turmoil and decided to take pity on this, rearrange their diaries, get a couple of the bods down here and turn it around in under a day. So I am elated that I can now actually power the computer, power the projector, run the camera, run the mics, run the lights, and it's not all falling over. So I'm absolutely made up. Very, very pleased.
Well, technically, you didn't miss any. Well, you did because it was a members only. A 10-hour show counts for at least 5 shows.
Oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that really. That was a very high risk. So for those of you watching live, you will be unaware unless you are a member of Nathan Oakley 1980 YouTube channel. And that is to say that in the middle of the carnage, at one point, we did get all the power on. It was really cold and it wasn't ideal circumstances. Now I found out after the fact that there was no surge protection on the board that had been installed at that point, but it worked, right? We had power and lights. So I thought, I really want to get to testing out this new computer because I still hadn't tested it. It was brand new when this all started, literally the day after I got it back. This all started. So I'd run one stream in a limited way because we're having electrical problems at the time with our dishwasher, which we just thought needed replacing. We even ordered one and ended up refunding it. Anyway, that aside, I didn't or shouldn't have run the computer, but did when we had the power up for about 10 hours doing a live stream, a members only live stream, and running games, running Minecraft, running Fortnite, running videos, just pushing the computer and, you know, seeing if it was happy. And it was. You know, at one point it hit 98C, presumably when my daughter was throwing a million sheep into a pen in Minecraft, and it didn't skip a beat. You know, it didn't miss a beat. I was really pleased with the computer. The electricity at the time, it wasn't worth the risk. I probably shouldn't have done it. If somebody had gone for bang like the radiator did, then it would be another £2,000 computer replacement time, which is just, it was a stupid mistake. However, every member really appreciated it. So, you know, while I say, it was worth the risk, it probably wasn't. But everybody enjoyed it. Fun was had by all. You lot all got off my back because you got to all interact with each other for a solid, you know, period of time. So, yeah, check it out if you are a member and you haven't already. There's a 10-hour live stream of discussions. We even did a full show in between, like a proper live show, when we had, who did we react to? I can't even remember who it was now, but we reacted to somebody in the middle of it. Dave McKeegan. Yes, it was. I might even trim that out because it was a full show's worth, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And I put another video of his into the live chat there yesterday, into Master B, if you want to go over that one. I haven't watched even this one. It's just more nonsense from McKeegan. McKeegan's always popular because he goes on with
that one. That one you need to go to, Nathan.
Well, the one with the pictures of the aeroplanes.
Yes, the one that Brian posted the other day.
The one yesterday, Neil. I posted one yesterday there.
Yeah, I think that's the one I put on. I listened to it for about 10 minutes.
Brian, props on your presentation about buoyancy, or by buoyancy, however y'all spelled it.
Beyonce.
Nice.
Thanks, Douglas.
Yeah, it was a good presentation. I was listening to it. I was like, the whole time, every time I hear buoyancy, you know what I say? Oh, so not down then. Okay.
Exactly. There is no weight, just different levels of buoyancy. That's it.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Good
happy to
stuff,
cover
man.
that. So I've stuck a link in the chat. Hopefully the moderators will grab it so they can let Dave know when we do actually come to covering that video. But I got it all queued up. I just don't want to jump straight into covering Dave McKeegan when we've been not on air for a while. I'd like to just have a chat first, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Well,
Can I ask?
What was it you wanted to tell me off air in private, Brian?
I'll tell you off air in private. It's just a little bit of something that you might be able to do to recover some semblance of justice. That's all.
I had this argument with my wife because I was like, once I think it was a commenter actually on one of the members. If you're the member that said this, just comment below on this video. But one of the members said, "Get back in touch with this cowboy and say your work's been condemned. Give me my money back in the most blunt way possible." And I thought, you know what, I will. So that's exactly what I did. My wife had already done it. She'd explained the situation to him, and what turned out to be, I think, his dad. Unless he's a con man, it might just be him on another phone for all we know. And there is no pregnant wife giving birth, or gave birth yesterday, as far as he was telling us. But nevertheless, I just sent him exactly that from the advice of that particular YouTuber, which is to say the truth. You know, I'd had a whole bunch of electricians, 3 different companies, 4 different electricians poking their screwdrivers into this box with looks of horror. You know, so I just basically told him that. And at the end of yesterday, they rattled off a whole list of things that were truly horrifying, more than I'd put in the videos about how it had been wired up. And at that point, I added that to the text to him. I'm like, you've literally put my family in danger with your incompetence. You know, there we go. My wife just wanted to see the back of him was the point I was going to make there, which is saying, oh, look, we've, like in A Bronx Tale, when the guy's being chased by the character that's chatting to one of the Dons. So he's having a conversation with the Don and he sees somebody out the corner of his eye and he goes, "Hey, Jimmy, come back here, you owe me $20, and starts chasing down the street after him. Guy gets away. He comes back to the Don all indignant. And the Don says, "What are you doing? What are you playing at?" He's like, "The guy's owed me $20 for about 6 months. He's like, "You got that guy cheap. You'll never, ever have to hear from him again for $20. Do you like him?" She's like, "You've got him cheap." Well, my wife took the same attitude. She's like, "Yes, 300 quid's a lot of money. And the other thing I said to her, this is the way I spun it to my wife, because she's obviously a bit upset because it was actually her cash, literally out of her pocket, that she handed to him, that the government had given us coincidentally, and then they take it away again. But there we go. She was all indignant about it. It's like, let's put it this way. I put it in this, again, to members in some of the videos. As much as it's fun doing Flat Earth debate, this is what I actually consider to be my job. But I'm not. I'm a videographer. So when I suffer, like the last 10 days, as much as it sounds sadistic, people enjoy that. They want to see the humanity and turmoil and strife that it takes to keep this sort of small channel running and keeping me in a living. And it's bloody hard. Yeah, like anything that anybody ever does ever that's worth anything and can potentially succeed, it's going to take you putting 110% into it, like anything. But people, when it's videography, want to see that. Well, in the case of my wife's 300 quid, what did it actually buy us? Well, it bought us the ability for me to broadcast our pain. Now you might go, well, that's not worth 300 quid. Well, yeah, it is. And I'll tell you why. I'll just clear my throat. The reason it was worth something is because it bought us a spiraling downward drain of tragedy that people got to see. Now, at the start of that process, when I didn't have 300 quid to pay this cowboy for his, pay us half now to get the parts, I didn't have that. So what I started doing was robbing Peter to pay Paul and putting parts that I'd got from the old computer that were broken onto eBay just to generate the cash to get this cowboy in. That's how we do things around here. We're poor. Nevertheless, that process meant that I'd generated some money out of nothing, right? Now, I still had that in my back pocket. I tipped the guys yesterday with that 300 quid that I got out of that CPU that I flogged, and along with some RAM that was broken and the motherboard that was broken, and I think that was it. Anyway, people got to watch that downward spiral, and as a result, when at the end I was at my absolute lowest, looking unshaven, hadn't had a wash but hadn't had a shower or a bath for 4 days, unshaven, looking like I felt like crap, and going, I don't know what to do. I've just committed to getting an electrician in that I can't afford to pay for, but that's what I've had to do. And people sent me money and pretty much covered that cost within a day. Now, don't get me wrong. I said, look, if anybody does want to support me financially, this would be about the right time to do it. I'll have to contemplate whether or not I'll have a GoFundMe. I didn't set one up, but I did get to the point where I could cover, at the very least, that visit yesterday. And what did that visit yesterday achieve? The ability to run the show again. So the people who watched the show got to see the urgency of the situation as it unfolded, where I was, sticking out members' videos that's a tongue twister, via Wi-Fi hotspots. And they, at one point, were plunged into complete darkness in the middle of the night with main fuses going and things blowing up around us. And, like I say, it might not be a Flat Earth debate that everyone loves, but as the main character, if you will, of this show that we have together, people like to see my pain, and they did sympathise with it, and it did ultimately result in a resolve, the same resolve I'd hoped to achieve for 300 quid and selling old bits on eBay, to a much higher standard, thanks to the help of the people that just wanted to see the show back on the air. And that in itself is not only a process that's quite humbling, but also it brought me to tears when I got one particular donation. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I got a big chunk of money and cried, but that is basically what I am also saying. It was just the fact that somebody saw it as such an important endeavour that I got the problem resolved, that they just gave me a big chunk of money. I mean, don't get me wrong, they didn't cover the entirety of it, but a fairly substantial wedge. And I was like, oh my God, I can't quite believe this is happening. People actually do want to see the show back in effect, so much so that they're prepared to hand over money for it on the spot. And you're like, it did bring a tear to my eye. And I told the person that as well. I was quite honest in the reply when I thanked them. I was like, I got this money and wept because it was true.
Well, I'm going to say it now, what I was going to say before, but I'm going to say it now. This guy that did this at your place, whether he did it through incompetence or he did it through malice, he's a danger. And that wouldn't matter so much if he was just putting up a door. Well, it would matter if you're putting up a door. But the point being is that the worst can happen is the door falls down, right? But if electrics go wrong, much, much worse things can happen. And he put your children in danger. Now, you know who the guy is. You have video of the guy in the background, right? I would be contacting some legal people. This guy needs to not be doing this. He needs to learn you can't be doing this. You can't mess around with people. You certainly can't mess around with electricity because you're putting the lives of people in danger and their children. So
Brian's right, because the next guy, Brian's right, because the next guy who does it to may not get so lucky. May burn his whole house down.
Mate,
Well, that's
I
what I
just
was
want to read
gonna
out. Hold
say.
on a second.
You
Just
may
one
not
sec.
have a
Sorry, John. Just one sec. I just want to read out JML's super chat because I don't think I'm quite putting across the sentiment that I mean by the reaction I've got from this super chat. I didn't enjoy at all seeing you and your family in distress. It's one thing to hear that you say you're poor. It's another thing to actually see you down. I don't mean enjoy. That's not what I mean. I haven't got the right word to express the sentiment that I'm trying to explain, JMLs. Thank you for the super chat, first and foremost. It's not that you enjoy it. It's just there's a level of humanity to seeing something beyond the show. You know, the general turmoil. It's like the only thing that came to my mind when I read your super chat, JMLs, was there was a BBC documentary where they showed a polar bear on a floating away bit of ice to its inevitable doom. Yeah. And I remember watching it, and nobody, unless you're a monster, derives pleasure from seeing that. But as a piece, it's part of nature to see that polar bear float away from its family to die. Not because it intended to, it's just messed up big time. Do you see what I mean? Well, I'm not saying I'm a sadist that would enjoy watching that because I want to watch the polar bear float away and die. But I enjoyed the nature program and the reality of the world that's been presented in that BBC documentary. It's a loose, but it's the only example I could come up with on the spot. When I say enjoy, it's probably the wrong word. I just can't think of a better one. Anyway, thank you for the super chat. Sorry, John.
They were partaking in it a little bit. They were actually showing it. We actually got to see. Maybe we didn't feel what you felt, but we felt for you being in that situation. I think that's what you were meaning to say.
it humanized you. But as far as legal advice, I'm not going to tell you to go see a lawyer, but you are obligated to go to the site where you first seen this guy and report him to other people that are also
Yeah, my wife
on
did that straight away.
site.
Yeah, she did that. She did it anonymously. So I think because of certain policies on that particular site, you're not supposed to troll and name and shame people as being crappy, but you can make anonymous reports, which is precisely what she immediately did. So yeah, that was already taken care of. In terms of getting into a legal wrangle dangle, I agree with you on the one hand. This guy shouldn't be out there doing that. But you know,
I think you should whack the guy, Nathan.
somebody pretending to be Neil.
Whoever did that did a good job.
That wasn't Neil.
That wasn't Neil. What?
That wasn't me.
No, it wasn't. Anyway.
Unless somebody's got a clip from me saying it in the past.
All's well that ends well is the overall conclusion of this. Other than I've got half a heating system missing, but I'll resolve that in time.
No, it hasn't ended well. This dude is still out there doing, maybe maliciously, destroying people's electrics, putting people in danger. It's not ended.
Yeah, he's a menace to society, right, Brian?
Literally, yeah, he is. Go on, Ian.
We have those. They're called handymen.
Yeah, but you're not talking about putting a shelf up with some books. You're talking about electrics. But if a fire started in your apartment, that's likely to go to other people's apartments as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, electrics is the one thing you can't mess around with. You can mess around with other things, and you can still cause danger and harm. But electrics is, you're not going to just harm one person when something falls on them. You're going to harm everyone.
Yeah, I'm between a
This
rock and a
guy
hard
is a
place in this
danger and he
regard,
shouldn't be out
Brian.
there doing that.
So it's my wife that's made the communication and contact with him initially, got him in to do a small job, and then even with him in my presence, I thought, yeah, this guy seems competent. From that point on, when I'm like, you should or we should do this, that, and the other, my wife is of the opinion I want to turn my back on this forever. That's her attitude, and you can't blame her. As much as I hear what you're saying, and I put that to her as well, which is say, well, no, if he's in a mum's group, which is what it was from, then there's a high likelihood if he's intentionally done things to make the job ropey so that he can keep coming back, then that might be his grift. In other words, he's got a whole load of vulnerable mums that need work and haven't got much money that are constantly handing over 50, 100, 50, 100 to this guy to do a crap job intentionally. In other words, he could be a grifter. Now, I don't know that. His story is that he's just literally having a baby and his wife's hustling him out. You check him out on Facebook and his wife out on Facebook, and it seems legit. And it seems like he's just started a family. He's a young guy. You think maybe because he's being whipped into doing as much work as possible for an imminent family starting, if he's to be taken at face value, then that story at least would lead you with an excuse for, yeah, you've run around bitten off more than you can chew when you're a handyman and you just want the money, and that's ended regrettably. Do I necessarily want to cripple the guy for it when I don't necessarily know that he is actually on the grift and a con man, when he could just be a young
But it
guy
doesn't
biting off
matter
more than he can chew?
if he's a grifter. Sorry, I have to overtalk you now. It doesn't matter if he's a grifter or if he's just an idiot. He's a danger.
Yeah, I
That's
totally
the
agree.
point.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
can't mess with electricity. The next mother's house he goes to might be the one that burns, and her and her children with it. That's the point.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I have to
That's
say
why
it.
you
This
got to
is-
deal with it.
Yeah, I have to say it, Nathan. Yeah, this guy, you have testimony that he's at least incompetent. Too incompetent to be doing those jobs from a proper electrical firm. The guy is
But
a
see,
danger. Yeah.
you're saying he's either incompetent or he's doing it intentionally. But there's a third option to this, that he's overworked.
Which is, I think, a
Well-
very real possibility.
Oh, come
No,
on.
It's not. There's
Are you
no
kidding
way
me,
that's a possibility. No. Who cares? He's a
Overworked.
danger. He came along with the wrong fuse board, did everything wrong at Nathan's. He shouldn't be doing this. He has no business being an electrician. No business, whether it's out of incompetence or malice. He shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
No way.
Completely.
There's not one site I worked on anywhere, and I've worked on building construction in different parts of the world. Not one site that I worked on that guy would last a day, because he's a danger.
Yes, indeed.
Now, I'm not going to go on about it.
In the meantime, my first priority, that aside, is to heat this place correctly. So I ordered another board for the radiator, put a screw in and destroyed, which was 150 quid. And I've told the electrician for when they can schedule me in, that's not like an emergency, this needs doing immediately appointment, like probably in a couple of weeks' time, that they're going to have to sort out a radiator on a wall and a boiler thermostat or whatever it is wrong with my water
Did you
system.
say he put a screw in the radiator?
Yes. So I asked him if he could look at a radiator that was rattling because it had a front fascia that wasn't attached properly. So I said, can you put that together correctly? I dug out the instruction manual. I could see on the instruction manual how to roughly do it, but it just too confusing to me because it just didn't explicitly say how to attach the front. But I got it to the page that indicated roughly how to do it and said, can you attach this properly? He then proceeded to just shove a screw into the first hole he found and force it into a daughter board that controls the circuit to regulate the power in at night. And it just went bang, as did the fuse board it just installed. In other words, what
He's
I
a
would
menace
have
to
done,
society.
what I would have done after reading the instruction manual and going, I can't really see which hole I'm supposed to put this screw in. I'll just guess, because I'm not an electrician and I don't know what I'm doing. I would have done exactly what he did. Literally exactly what he did. And the end result would have been the same. Bang. And I'd have gone, why the hell didn't I get an electrician to do this? Right? So, with that in mind, knowing that there's been plenty of things like that in the past that I've done where I've destroyed things because you go, it's just a screw. No, don't be complacent. It's a very powerful radiator that costs 600, 700 quid. Don't just shove a screw in somewhere where you don't know what you're doing. Get an electrician to do it. So the electrician just shoves the screw in where I would have shoved it in and destroys it. You're like, oh, great. I mean, it's a 150 quid mistake, but there we go. Not my mistake, an electrician's mistake. But this same electrician, as you say, cowboy, shouldn't be out there. There are various different places now I'm thinking about it, Brian, that I can actually report him to. Rogue traders and such like. Yeah? That's what you're suggesting I do, and I think you're right.
Well, there's surely some construction, governmental construction people that you can report. The guy is a danger. I'm not into reporting people. I don't ever do. I've never done that like that. But unless the only time I will ever do that is exactly like that, because he is an incompetent danger, or he has malice. Either way, he's just as dangerous. The guy shouldn't be doing what he's doing. Ever.
Agreed.
Do you know what I mean?
Right. Whether he's done it intentionally, done it by accident, or just made a mistake because he's stretched himself too thin, he needs to be reported.
Yeah, agreed. I am glad that it's over as far as this electricity and broadcasting is concerned. I am delighted that I'm sat here now talking to you about this, even though it's not the best things to be talking about. Hello, Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Afternoon, guys. I'm driving at the moment, so I'll try and help you. The saga continues, I hear.
No. The saga does definitely have a light at the end of the tunnel, which has been reached. Now it's just sorting out little niggles. So, as far as I'm concerned, having reliable electricity, that's all I need to sit here and do what I'm doing now. Being cold, I've got a jumper on. You know what I mean? That's not a big deal. We're moving into spring anyway. So those things can wait a couple of weeks till the electricians who did an absolutely fantastic job can come back with space in their diary to tart up little bits of trunking and things like that. There's a whole wire mess in the paint cupboard, as we've called it, we're behind the shower, and that needs, tacking onto the wall. But all those little things don't stop us having a shower and making food. So I couldn't care less if it takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even a month for them to come back and do all those little things, including getting us hot water. Now we've got a shower. It's fine. We can do without hot water from the hot water tap. When you've got a shower, you don't care anymore, right? You can wait. Again, the heater that's right next to me now, it irritated me because it rattled during the show. I'd rather be cold than it rattle. That's why I was so keen for the electrician to put a screw in and blow it up, because it rattled. So I'd sit here hearing it on the recording, and I'd be like, my expensive £700 radiator rattles its way into the microphone. That's annoying. Anyway, let's stop moaning about electricity. Gotta be honest, it's absolutely drained the crap out of me. I wouldn't be surprised if I become ill tomorrow. And you reach the point at the end of constant adrenaline day in, day out, and then you get to the end of it and go, oh, I feel quite ill now. That's how I feel today. I shouldn't say that. I wanted to be upbeat and positive.
What you need to have is a drink.
I don't drink.
That's the time for alcohol.
Scotch.
I don't drink.
You don't have to have a load of drink, just one or two, because that's the time for it, because it de-stresses you when you need it. That's the time for it.
I don't know.
Because otherwise you are not de-stressing and you're going to get sick.
It's not really my poison. I'll consider it again. It won't be the drink. Maybe I'll have some crack later. I don't know. I'll think about it.
I knew alcohol was used for something, Brian. It's to de-stress you.
It's the devil.
Yeah, you need to de-stress, because that's what makes you sick, is the stress.
My kids make me
plus
de-stress.
it's been cold.
This
Hold
makes
on,
me de-stress.
You haven't had eat.
Other than being, charged with having to report this guy, and, I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about it because of having met him and heard his sob story, but that could all be total nonsense. And regardless, as John points out, it doesn't matter if he's got a sob story, you know, if he's putting people into. Anyway, apart from that, this is my de-stressing. That 9-hour, 10-hour stream was wonderful. I was so relaxed at the end of that. I forgot all about everything. The computer didn't fail. The electrics held. And at the end of it, I felt great. I wasn't thinking about any of it. And that's why this is a bit crap, and you can probably hear me sounding a bit awkward, because it's like I'm excited to get back into the show so I can relax into a Dave McKeegan response or whatever. But if we just drag out the cowboy, it's like, oh, my wife wants to pay the 300 quid to see the back of him and never think about him again. But you're saying I've got a certain amount of obligation to next man, which you're right. But let's not discuss it for the entire show. Or we could have total silence. There's either are good by me.
Well, we thought we were going to run the video. That's what I thought you just said.
Yeah, I thought that was a segue for the video.
I thought I'd get some reaction.
I'm coming across as the bad guy, and I'm almost trying to stop a family from burning alive.
No, I'm not.
No. You're not a bad guy. You're not telling him. You're not putting him out of work. You just don't want him to touch electric anymore. Let him find something else to do.
Yes.
Yeah,
indeed.
he can labour for block layers. Do you know what I mean? Like I used to do. That'll make him money too.
I agree. Any more on this? Hopefully we'll draw a line under it at this point. Okie dokie.
I want to hear McKeegan.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm going to call to action now. So, audience, if you're watching live, how many people have we got live? Let's have a look. Nice to know, as it's the first day back after a small hiatus. I'll actually see. 75 people watching. Cool. Please share the show if you haven't done so already. And as I say, a very warm welcome. We are going to cover Dave McKeegan right now. So I'm going to put a link to his video. Please let Dave McKeegan know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Also, if you remember, at about the 7-hour mark, there or thereabouts, if you scroll through on that members-only stream, we did another response to Dave McKeegan. I can't really remember what it was about, but I remember Dave McKeegan being on screen after someone told me that's who we did this morning. So there we go. Hopefully that's enough time for us to get some of the live audience members to go to Dave's video and in the politest possible way say, Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, we responded to your video. Now the idea, although in previous attempts I believe Dave's responded to us and not put links to our video, or it could have been someone else, I forget. In any event, the idea is that should Dave McKeegan respond to this video, he would put a link to our video, helping us along in the YouTube algorithmic love that we so sorely do not receive from YouTube. So, hopefully that's enough time to get people back here, and we'll cover a bit of this video. I haven't actually sound checked the volume, but we'll do that now.
Alan, thanks for joining us for another video. Recently, I was made aware of claims made by taboo conspiracies about the German Knickerbein system used in World War II. Knickerbein was a method of radio navigation that was used by German bombers to achieve a higher degree of bombing accuracy, especially at night when they couldn't actually see their targets.
Anyone familiar with this? Okay, none of us are familiar with this. Fair enough. This should be interesting.
Taboo argues this system could not have possibly have worked on a globe, and so therefore the Earth must be flat. So in this video, we'll cover how the Knickerbein system actually worked and why I would argue that not only is Taboo being quite disingenuous with how he's portraying his claims,
who cares? Just does it prove it or not?
But that Knickerbein really does more to prove the globe than disprove it.
More to prove it than disprove it. So you're saying you can take it two different ways and you're going to weigh up the scales of evidence. It should be absolutely without question.
Now, I'm sure there'll be people commenting, asking, why am I wasting my time arguing about this?
Because you're very distressed about it. That face says it all. Because this disturbs you.
Simply because I find it interesting.
No, it's because the algorithm favours anti-flat earth content and you make an absolute shit ton of money at making these videos, which require minimal effort on your part.
Quite an avid interest in military history, particularly around the World Wars, and I was already familiar with the existence of Knickerbein beforehand, but this has pushed me to research it deeper and come away with more knowledge on the subject, and I enjoy learning new things. It's why my streak of using Brilliant.org is now up to 300 and Bill buys what answer who sign up.
Have existed, and presented the information to Frederick Lindemann, Winston Churchill's leading science advisor. But Lindemann and others said such a targeting system would be impossible because the supposed curvature of the Earth would block the high-frequency beams because VHF waves do not even allegedly bend around the curvature of the Earth.
If, like me, you suffer in silence and tend to bottle.
Dr. Jones took the message to Professor Lindemann, his old tutor and now scientific advisor to Winston Churchill, and tried to persuade him of the...
That Michael Palin?
I have no idea.
I think that's Michael Palin. The narrator, sorry.
serious threat posed by the Knickerbein beams.
Do you not recognise it from...
It sounds like it could be, but I don't know. I think it may not be.
But Lindemann was not convinced, pointing out that at the high frequencies necessary for an accurate beam, the curvature of the Earth would prevent its being directed against targets in Britain.
The first of these Knickerbein transmitters was set up on Stolberg Hill near Denmark. Stolberg Hill was located 443 miles away from Derby, England. The hill was only 142 feet high.
That's Derby.
And the transmitter was 152 feet high for a combined height of 294 feet. Based on the
I don't even need to do the maths. This wouldn't be possible.
global math, the Earth's curvature would hide 118,425 feet. In other words, under the globe, a German bomber would need to be higher than 118,425 feet to be within the line of sight of the Knickerbein system.
According to mathematics that have been derived from flat Earth measurements. So this is a nonsensical claim in the first instance. It's saying when we take a measurement of a flat Earth and turn it into a radial spherical value for that flat disk radial value measurement for Polaris, then that reified model that we take from the flat Earth measurements into a spherical paradigm would block this transmission. But it doesn't. That's the bottom line. This is just silly.
First thing we need to address is Taboo's statements around radio waves not bending.
What? Why?
Whenever a wave passes by an obstacle, it diffracts. This is where the wave path radiates out more.
Oh, you think diffraction is where a wave radiates out more? Diffraction is more simplistically described as interference. That's what diffraction is.
Right, light's not a wave, so this is immediately wrong.
Yeah.
There is not an on-off switch with this. Waves don't either diffract or not. Any electromagnetic
it can't be a
wave
if it diffracts.
Yeah, this guy's an idiot. He seems to think that when you describe wavelength, which is a derivation of a concept brought out of diffraction patterns. Now, the various different diffraction patterns that you get for light can be qualified into a wave function that varies for the different types of light. That is where we get our convention of wavelength. But that doesn't make light a wave, and when it quote-unquote diffracts, it doesn't mean it's diffracting around buildings because light, the wave, is going to bend. What, like the waves of an ocean moving around a rock? I mean, this guy's an absolute numpty. He hasn't got the slightest idea what he's talking about.
Can diffract when traveling between different
diffract, as in interference. It can have interference, but that would mean there was something interfering with it, though, wouldn't it?
Density mediums. However, the amount of diffraction varies depending on the wavelength and the medium in question.
But diffraction is the wavelength. The diffraction can vary depending on the wavelength. No, the wavelength comes as a derivation of a diffraction pattern. He's just bullshitting his way through this, isn't he? He doesn't really know what he's talking about. This is how you have to
sound if you're trying to describe how something can have line of sight to something else that's on the other side of a ball. This is how you have to sound.
My understanding about like a radio transmitter would work. So, like a TV transmitter, for instance, in England, we've got Alexander Palace that used to just barrage out signals. Now, when you say diffraction, well, if you're going to describe that process as having interference, what that means is that there's a building in the way of the signal. Well, by having huge amounts of power, they just barrage the signal through everything. That's how they got around it. They're just huge amounts of power to do it. Now, the antithesis of that is what we have now with 5G. Really, really, really low power. Very, very short range. As opposed to TV transmissions of old, where they literally brute force the signal through buildings. Didn't matter that they were in the way. The signal's strong enough to just go past and around with the excess signal just hitting the building and obviously stopping then. But that's not diffraction of a signal. That's brute forcing your way through things that are in your path with a signal. There's a very distinct difference. But Dave McKeegan's just making shit up, talking about diffraction of a light as a wave. What the hell?
How
With
would this
diffraction,
work if,
Again.
sorry, how would it work if the beam was diffracting? It would mean that as the diffraction is breaking up of the beam, so it's not going to do what they needed to do. The whole point of it was it gets from A to B in this short space of time and does what they needed to do.
Well, this is Dave McKeegan's bullshit land of why it can go around a sphere that's been taken into reification from flat Earth measurements, and how that model could still work with this bullshit explanation being the reason.
reducing as wavelength reduces. So higher
What? As wavelength reduces? What?
frequency equals less
Didn't in
diffraction.
prior videos the same guy tell us all about how we would need flat baselines? Is this the same guy?
But what it's showing is a signal reaching a building and part of the signal stopping when it hits the building and the rest carrying on. This is what I described in terms of a TV transmission and brute force. That's all this is.
Lower frequency equals more diffraction.
Whoa. How is this signal now growing when it goes past the building? What's that all about? What is this crap?
It's why you can listen to radio stations in your car even when there is a hill between you and the transmitter, because the radio waves can diffract around the hill.
No, they're not diffracting around the hill. It's just brute force. It's just a really strong signal. What's he talking about? Diffracting around hills? Has anybody got a clue what this guy's actually babbling about?
He thinks he's somehow going to prove the globe. So he's, the guy is making stuff up. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Hill, and it's why it is harder to get a good TV signal versus a good radio signal when there are obstacles between you and the transmitter, because the TV signals run on a higher frequency and so don't diffract as much.
Right. The frequency being higher, if you're talking about wavelengths of light, is a convention derived from its diffraction pattern, and you're describing stuff getting in the way. That's what you're I can't quite believe the level of ignorance, to be perfectly frank with you. This is quite shocking.
Taboo alludes to VHF radio waves not bending.
VHF waves do not even allegedly bend around the curvature of the Earth.
Except VHF, or very high frequency radio, is a band of frequencies between 30 to 300 megahertz.
And?
That's quite a broad range, and in fact, Knickerbein operated on between 30 to 33 megahertz.
So what does this have to do with them bending around a reified model taken from flat Earth measurements? Not that that ever needs to be justified. Go on.
I was going to say that you need an angle of incidence for that. And to reference it to anything, you would need a level horizontal plane to do that. So I'm not really sure where he thinks he can go with this.
So right down at the lower frequency end with the longest wavelengths. For reference, commercial FM radio usually sits between 87.5
Who cares?
megahertz to 108, and yet they can easily diffract.
So easily diffract? What? What the hell is going on?
So, a radio signal on a globe that's being transmitted beyond the horizon, as it passes the horizon, that is essentially an obstacle, and the signal will diffract slightly.
No. The signal will diffract. No. The hill would get in the way of the signal. Now, that's not to say that above this line where the signal continues and hasn't been blocked, it doesn't just grow a new arse. Yeah? If somebody gets in the way, somebody gets in the way. What's he... Go on, John.
I was just gonna say it's that the devil's in the details, right? That's why he's spending all this time talking about how these signals can supposedly diffract, so that something on a globe beyond the horizon can get that signal, right? So it's just like I say, he just has to do this because he has to explain how you can catch a signal from something on the other side of a ball.
Yeah, can I just make the statement that diffraction is something we observe visually, right? You can observe diffraction. He's describing this as diffraction, something he can't observe. You can't observe that, the VHF. You can't observe it. He's describing it as diffraction incorrectly to try and explain how it can curve around his globe. Diffraction won't cause something to curve. He's thinking of a wave that will curve. Light is not a wave. Diffraction proves it's not a wave, and diffraction won't curve. He's thinking that he thinks that it's this wave of light that all travels as one solid unit or one flowing unit or something. Do you know what I mean? He's completely off base altogether. But this is what they do, these people on the opposite side. They step into topics without properly learning them, and then they want to tell the world all about this topic that they haven't properly learned.
Meaning a receiver wouldn't necessarily need to...
Meaning that they would build receivers in valleys, like depicted here, right, Dave? Because that's where they build receivers, transmitters, yeah? So they build them in valleys, don't they, Dave? Yeah? That's often where I see TV transmitting equipment, in a valley. Because they don't worry about a hill getting in the way, do they? Yeah? Like in your diagram here? Now, I would like Dave to show me an example where they've got a TV transmitting antenna array in a valley. Because that's precisely what he's attempting to convince you of in this stupid, nonsensical garbage, using the word diffraction, which he doesn't understand. So, Dave, is this where they put their transmitters? I'm pretty sure they put them on top of really tall hills. Yeah? You total clown. They don't put transmitters in valleys. Yeah, why? Well, because the hills get in the way.
To have direct line of sight with the...
Go on.
Sorry. I'm going to say the world record distance for microwave signal from A to B, and microwave would be VHF, would be a high frequency, is 146 miles. I think they got it to 163, but I know they definitely got it to 146. So 146 miles, that is the maximum distance they got it from A to B, and they had to be both the receiver and the transmitter had to have no impedance, no physical impedance in between.
No, you're wrong. No, Dave says they do it in valleys.
I am wrong then. Sorry.
They do it in valleys. Diffraction solves the problem. Yeah? Next time you see one of your 3G, 4G towers up on a big hill somewhere, no. Don't kid yourself. Yeah? The rest of them are all in the valleys because of diffraction. Right, Dave? Complete clown. This is where they are, right? In these valleys. Stupid idiots.
Transmitter to actually pick the signal up.
Now, what they do is they figure out where there might be obstructions with respect to a horizontal plane of reference, Dave. Last time I checked this, which was about 6 years ago, my understanding was they actually use Google Earth Pro to do this, to figure out if there are topographical impedances to line of sight. They did it with respect to a horizontal plane of reference and an elevation profile tool only available on Google Earth Pro that shows how high or low potential impedances are on the terrain with respect to a flat plane of reference. That's how Google Earth Pro works. And last time I checked, that's what they use to set up these antennas.
Taboo also includes a clip from a documentary that talks about this.
Show me evidence, Dave. Just get me evidence of a transmitter in a valley with hills in the way without it being an issue. You know, I mean, obviously, that would be a physical hill that you can geometrically define and show how high it is with respect to sea level off a flat plane. And then you'll be able to show our transmitters below that, and you on the other side of the hill can still get a signal from it because of diffraction. Not your imaginary Earth curve that's derived from flat Earth measurements of Polaris to give you a radial value on a flat plane that you can call spherical, and then decide to justify how an Earth curve we ain't seeing and have debunked 4 years ago is actually not getting in the way because light diffracts. When light diffracts, which is a convention that gives you wavelength, it gets around hills and stuff that you're not demonstrating. This is garbage, Dave. Pure garbage.
Dr. Jones took the message to Professor Lindemann, his old tutor and now scientific advisor to Winston Churchill, and tried to persuade him of the serious threat posed by the Knickerbein beams. But Lindemann was not convinced, pointing out that at the high frequencies necessary for an accurate beam, the curvature of the Earth would prevent its being directed against targets in Britain.
So governmental advice says Earth curve gets in the way. Earth curve didn't get in the way, Dave.
This clip appears to be from a video called The Secret War, which I'll link below, and this is where I feel Taboo is being a bit misleading with his
Sorry, Dave. We've just got a problem. You've provided no evidence whatsoever for your claim that transmitters can work in valleys, other than a diagram in orthographic view with a transmitter in a valley and an alleged hill in the way and it not interfering with the signal. Yeah, Dave, your crap doesn't really hold water, okay? But what, you're going to, after not providing any evidence beyond your orthographic cartoon that transmitters can transmit through hills, yeah, you're going to start critiquing Taboo's source. Oh, right, I see.
Claims. The section he's chosen to include uses Lindemann's initial objection to Knickerbein, which states, quote, "At the high frequencies necessary for an accurate beam, the curvature of Earth would prevent it being directed against targets in Britain."
Yeah, we heard.
End quote. Transmitted signals don't travel in a perfectly narrow beam. They inherently spread out the further away from the source they get, and the lower the frequency, the more the spread. Higher frequencies can remain in a narrower beam for longer. So the problem with using lower frequencies for navigation is that at far distances, the signal would cover quite a wide corridor, and you wouldn't know where you were within the beam.
Seems like a reasonable objection so long as there's no Earth curve in the way.
Consider the spreading of radio beams similar...
No. Does that not seem like a diversionary rebuttal? Because, no, that's not the
Absolutely.
issue. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. What he's about to do now is what they all do, to start going into the details of a topic, which gives them credence to an ignorant audience member who thinks this person must know what they're talking about, because they can research the topic and what Dave said, that is true, kind of thing. But then they will say, and it bends around the curve of a globe, and they'll accept that as well, because Dave said it. When he has no evidence.
Sorry.
What, John?
Sorry, he can't be talking about the same curvature of the Earth that other people have told us that has never been measured, that it's so big that you have to measure it flat, that you can't actually measure the curve of the Earth. You can see effects of the curvature, but you can't measure it. The same one that would be inappropriate to measure. He couldn't be talking about that curvature of the Earth, could he?
Okay, what Chocolate's
Yeah, he
driving
is.
at, just hold on, just for the audience's benefit, what Chocolate's essentially saying, I'll make your conclusion for you, Chocolate, if you don't mind, is that this is one giant begging the question fallacy. The premise that this refutes is based on an idea that we have defensible Earth curve automatically assumed in this discussion. Now, you could lay the blame for that on Taboo Conspiracy's door because he's addressing an issue that he hasn't been challenged on. He's preemptively, if you will, addressing an Earth curve claim, and then obviously Dave's picked up the baton and ran with it. But by the same token, it is just one giant glorified begging the question fallacy, I think, is your point, Chocolate. Am I right?
Yeah, pretty much.
What Dave is actually claiming, without using the words, is that a microwave signal will bend. That's what he's claiming. The whole point, the microwave signal is directly connected to a laser, right? Directly connected to laser, right? The both of them have more or less the same origin. The whole point of a microwave signal is that it goes in a straight line. It's a high frequency signal that has a short distance, but it'll go in a straight line. It takes a lot of power to send it where you need it to go, of any great distance. But the whole point is that it's concentrated and goes straight. It doesn't do what Dave is saying. They don't, high frequency beams, radio beams, does not do that. They don't do that.
Similar to light from a torch. Flashlight for our American friends. If we shine the light at a wall and consider that as the target area, the further away the target is from the light source, the larger the area that the light is landing in. Now consider a plane inside that circle of light. The plane can see the light, so it knows it's within the light beam, but it doesn't know where within the beam it is.
Yeah, this in no way addresses the issue that Taboo Conspiracies raised, which is that there's a physical obstruction claim to be taking place. Beam divergence. So what?
It could be in the centre, but it could also be near the edges.
But this could be an issue if you're trying to follow a glide slope. Who cares?
And this is where
This is a total red herring.
Lindeman's initial objection came in, that at the distances from...
No, the objection is that there'd be earth curve blocking the smegging signal. Like your hill in a valley. You know, your little hill that's blocking the view of the transmitter that you say, nah, it don't matter. Because that's where they build transmitters in valleys. Yeah, that's the issue.
From Western Germany to targets in England...
With a hill in the way.
For a beam to remain narrow enough...
Sorry, no. For the hill to be in the way. Yeah, now, if you're watching Dave and you don't realise that you've just been hoodwinked, then you're a dumbass. Yeah?
Over the target area to have been any use for guiding bombers, it would have needed a frequency far too...
Sorry, are we talking about following glide slopes into an airport, or putting targets on ships in the distance to bomb them? Or are we talking about a signal having a hill getting in the way? Because it seems like we've got a complete red herring non sequitur now.
Too high to get over the curvature of Earth. However, he had a slight oversight that the Germans had actually worked out a way of using a much lower frequency. Back in the early 1930s, German electronics firm C. Lorenz AG had developed a blind landing navigation system called the Lorenz beam, which was installed at many airports and guided planes onto the runway whilst flying blind, such as at night or in bad weather.
Wouldn't be much use if it was bending.
Yeah, but
this system...
what has this got to do with the system?
Nothing.
The system claims a high frequency signal. It doesn't claim a low frequency signal. So it doesn't matter if the Germans also could do this other thing. The whole point of this system is it's an A to B in straight line system without physical impedance, tangible impedance. That's the point.
Them worked by transmitting two alternating signals, one...
So now we're talking about a completely different system.
From either side of an antenna along the flight path for the runway. One side would transmit dot sounds, the other side would
So I called it. This red herring leading onto glide slopes. I called it before we even got there.
Transmit dash sounds. If a pilot was approaching off-center of the runway, they would only be...
Who cares? If he was approaching with a frickin' mountain in the way, do you think this would apply? Because your diagram had a frickin' mountain in the way. Here's your diagram. Dave, your diagram shows that there's a glide slope with a mountain in the way of the glide slope to make this comparable. Yeah? You hearing me on FM? Yeah? Notice how this signal in the little box on the left, which is his diagrammatical explanation for extending the arse of signals that have got a hill in the way. That's got nothing to do with the beam divergence when you're following a glide slope, Dave. Yeah? It would only be equivalent if there was a mountain in the way of this glide slope. Yeah, that isn't what you're comparing, though, Dave. It's a total red herring.
Be hearing one of the signals, and they would know they needed to correct either left or right, depending on whether they were hearing dots or dashes. When the plane was in the center line for the run.
What about if there was a mountain in the way, Dave? Yeah, would it work? Would it just bend its way around it? Would it diffract its way around the frickin' mountain? Because that could cause a serious problem if glide slopes diffracted their way around mountains, Dave. Like you're alleging they diffract their way around the hill you call Earth curve, like when you had your transmitter in a valley. Yeah, glide slopes don't diffract around mountains, Dave.
Runway, they...
Diffraction's the wrong word, by the way, Dave. I'm using your stupid word, yeah?
Would be in the overlap between the two beams, and the pilot would hear both signals, which combined to produce a continuous beep.
Would he hear it in the glide slope that's got a hill in the way of it, Dave? Because that's the actual problem here, Dave. Yeah? Did this red herring work on the majority of your audience? Because by my estimations, you've already had 50,000 views on this. This total garbage red herring.
So, as long as the pilot kept adjusting their course to keep hearing that continuous beep,
then they'd just be flying into the mountain because the signal had diffracted around the mountain, right, Dave? Yeah, right?
It would come down right on the middle of the runway. The Knickerbein system used this same principle, but in reverse, flying away from the signal source rather than towards it.
How fascinating, Dave. The only problem is that this obviously wouldn't work if there was a frickin' hill in the way, would the system work then, Dave? No, it definitely wouldn't. You know what I mean? You'd have crashes quite frequently if people went, well, what can I do? I thought I was heading to the runway, I was following the glide slope, but what do you know? The signal diffracted its way around this hill.
Projecting a Lorentz beam away towards a target, if a pilot is on that beam and hearing only dots, they know they are left of the target.
Is he just putting in this gas so that he's got enough garbage between the original claim and the dumbass audience member so the attention of the ADHD crowd is appealing to has been severed by the time he gets to the end of this boring-ass point that just legitimizes his research as opposed to being an overcome to anything that Taboo Conspiracies actually put forward? Is he just boring the pants off his audience?
Yeah, that's what he does. That's what they do. They'll go into the basics of a topic and then some complexities of a topic and give the impression they know what they're talking about because they're regurgitating the basics or complexities of this topic. But they never get checked then on the other claim, which is the light is doing this bending, the microwave is bending over their globe. That's a nothing. So all the people listening to him think he must know what he's talking about because I researched this thing he was talking about there and it is what he's saying. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that what the other thing he's saying is true. Just because he's detailing this true thing doesn't mean the other thing is true. No one researches that part. They just go, Dave must know what he's talking about. You know what I mean? That's what it is. Yet he has shown no evidence for his original claim. You don't have these transmitters in valleys. Are you going to go on and play on more of it, Nathan?
Yeah.
I've been laughing quite a bit. I think it's pretty funny.
If they're hearing just dashes, then it's the opposite. And if they're in the overlap of the beams, they will hear both signals producing a continuous beep, and they will know they're on the right flight path. And even though these beams would be spreading out more and more over greater distances, the beams could be angled towards or away from each other to produce a very narrow overlap. So even with a low-frequency signal at long distances, the plane could be kept on a very fine flight path. And
with a hill in the way, could it? Like if there was a mountain in the way of the signal, could that still work? Yeah?
No.
No, it couldn't, could it?
The second overlapping beam used this same principle, but on a slightly different frequency to distinguish it apart.
No, you see, with respect to a horizontal plane of reference, they got above the elevation and then the signal worked. There was no mountain/earth curve edge obstruction getting in the way of the signal, so it just worked.
Usually, they do this on the ground.
Pardon?
Sorry, I said according to Dave, we should just be able to do this on the ground. We shouldn't need an airplane at all.
Yeah, don't need a tower.
Yeah.
One at about 31 megahertz and one at 33.
In fact, that's a bloody good question, Dave. Why do they put them on towers? In fact, why put them above ground?
So when...
Yeah.
Why don't they just bury these transmitters, Dave? Right, diffraction will sort it out.
The plane entered the second beam, a second radio transmitter tuned to that frequency would hear the second dotted signal. When they hit the center line and the merging in the second signal, they knew they were in exactly the right spot to drop their payload. So it was able to produce very accurate results, but without the high frequencies that Lindemann initially presumed it would need.
Amazing, and it's almost like I've lost every member of the audience who's got a short attention span in terms of what the point was actually supposed to be addressing.
And the documentary explains that the British were initially stumped by this because they suspected some sort of radio navigation was being used based on captured intelligence.
Meanwhile, the quote that you were addressing about 3 minutes ago was that the problem they foresaw was that Earth curve would get in the way. But what do you know, it didn't.
But examinations of captured German bombers revealed nothing out of the ordinary in their...
What, like Earth curve getting in the way and stuff?
...their equipment. The British were aware of the Lorenz system because it was used in airports around the world, but it wasn't until somebody noticed that the Lorenz receivers on the bombers were actually far more sensitive than what would be required for the relatively short distance at airports that they then figured out Knickerbein was using the same frequency signals as the Lorenz system, but at much further distances.
So I asked Coxwalker if there was anything odd about the blind landing receiver, and first he said no, and then he said, but wait a minute, yes, you know, it's much more sensitive than they would need for blind landing. And of course that was it. Effectively, the prisoner had thought we wouldn't spot it because it looked to be an ordinary blind landing receiver, but in fact it was a much better receiver than one needed. It would have the necessary sensitivity, we thought, and so here was the answer.
And funnily enough, the documentary...
Why would it need to be super sensitive?
To go a long way or pick up a signal that's very weak from a long distance?
Yeah, or a particular type of signal.
What's your point?
That his argument is not an argument.
Oh, right. Yeah, I thought that was a given at this point. It's a complete non sequitur, red herring. Yeah.
Covers Lindemann's reaction to learning about this.
Told him, convinced him on the theory, now, with Eckers's paper, that the beams would bend round sufficiently, that it was in the blind landing receiver. Therefore, they must be on frequencies to which the blind landing receivers could be set.
So he's working under the supposition that they must be bending because it's going around the curve of the Earth. So it's affirming the consequent fallacy on the part of this gentleman.
Yeah.
Well, if it's going around the curve of the Earth and they're very sensitive, it must be bending because it's not being blocked by the curve of the Earth. That's an affirming the consequent fallacy.
It's another example of them giving themselves a problem and then saying, wow, look, we overcame that problem. Look at that.
Exactly. And if you go, just a few things to point out. Originally, that wasn't Dave's argument. It was that high frequency signals bend, right? That Taboo conspiracy was a deceiver, right? There was his first two claims, right? But now he's talking about these other lower frequency. He says lower frequency beams. How much lower, Dave? He gave a couple of figures there. How much lower? Are you talking like ordinary radio? What are you talking about? Like when he says lower, it's only a little lower in comparison to what? You know what I mean? This is what it is, and this guy is obviously it must be bending because I can't think outside of a globe. That's all that is. There's absolutely no evidence. Basically, his original claim was that microwave signals bend. That was his original claim around the globe. That was his original claim.
And therefore we could listen for them. And Lindemann changed completely at that point and wrote a minute to Churchill, warning him that they seemed to have some new system which would enable them, the German Air Force, to bomb us fairly accurately at night.
So Taboo seems rather disingenuous here, including...
Right, Taboo didn't say a word.
Projection.
Lindemann's initial assessment from the documentary, but failing to include his later assessment once...
Failing to acknowledge his flip-flopping? How dare he? He should have acknowledged his affirming the consequent fallacy that got around this problem of the globe Earth not getting in the way, with it bending and that. What a dick.
But hang on. Did we hear Lindemann say that? Or did we hear someone else say he said it? I'm not seeing the video.
Well, we heard him commenting on Lindemann.
Yeah, but that's a comment on Lindemann. That's not Lindemann saying it.
That's Taboo conspiracy being disingenuous. Aren't you keeping up?
But that's the point. It's like we're hearing comment on what Lindemann said, but that's not Lindemann's words. The only words Lindemann said was, this can't work because the curve of the globe will get in the way. That was his original, that's what he did say. These other things are, Newton said this, but he didn't say it. Do you know what I mean? It's the same kind of thing, where you just, I've yet to, what did Lindemann actually say? Not what the narrator or whoever wants to say he said. In their own way.
He'd been presented with all the facts. But Taboo's argument also hits several other issues.
No, it's not about presentation of facts either, as much as I hate getting into this wrangle-dangle. No. It was, if you want to look at what was presented in the order that's been given chronologically, then you've got the following order of events. This won't work, Earth curve will get in the way. Oh no, this works for someone else. Why would that be the case? Well, it must be the case that the beams are bending. Therefore it works. Oh, all right then. How dare you, Taboo? Did you not listen to their after-the-fact smearing of heliocentric bullshit over a problem that wasn't a problem because there was no Earth curve problem? Did you not acknowledge that and ignore all objections and then take the historical timeline and objections as the information was provided in the timeline that was given as being a false narrative? Because the objections that Earth curve would get in the way, but it didn't, weren't that there was an Earth curve getting in the way. It's your lack of acknowledgement of how the after-the-fact ad hoc explanation for why this worked when they thought it wouldn't should be the now accepted rhetoric. God, Taboo, you're just disgraceful. How disingenuous.
That was good.
His entire rebuttal is based on the figures from two antennas, one at Stolberg and one at Cleve, and how
neither of them got Earth curve getting in the way of them, like the guy originally feared would be the problem.
They wouldn't reach Derby on a globe because...
Yeah, they wouldn't, and they did. But it's because of this mitigating bullshit that we will now smear over the top of the story that was originally a problem because Earth curve will get in the way, but ended up not being a problem because it didn't get in the way. But it's not that it's not getting in the way, it's that it is in the way, but we're bending around it. Okay, we're all clear. What's that? That's called diffraction? Clown shoes?
Because he argues the beams wouldn't bend. Now, of the two antennas...
Do they look bent? Anybody be able to see this diagram? You can see beam divergence, which is to say they get wider. But they're not bending, Dave. Yeah? Even by my estimation, these are straight lines. Yeah? They're getting a bit wider. But they're not bending. These aren't bending, Dave. Are you nuts? What do you think bending means? Do you not know what bent means? Because this isn't that. You complete clown. Your evidence of your own eyes you're prepared to deny because somebody after the fact said it's bending. You look at a straight line and say, yeah, you're holding up 5 fingers. My God, people are brainwashed. I'm going to get a coffee. Hopefully the conversation will continue.
Well, you know, it's straight in a bent way. Or can we just accept that everything is straight and that straight means bent while being straight? And we can just move on with this, you know. But we have to accept that straight is bent, which is straight. And then we can talk about this topic.
And up is also down, and the horizon is physical and non-physical, and gravity creates itself.
Yes. See?
All
You
that
just got to
checks
get
out.
those two things. Yeah. Just got to accept these things first.
What's gravity?
Something we've never seen.
Oh, hold on. I got it. We don't know, Brian. We see the effects of it.
As
We
far
don't
as
know
what it is, we don't know.
Chocolate's here with the quotes. Let him go. And I like what Chocolate said. They made a problem when there was no problem. It just worked.
And then,
They always do
they're
that.
like, "Hey, look how that problem wasn't a problem. We overcame that problem. Look at that."
Let me give you another example. They go out and they survey.
Heliocentrism is so funny to me now. I'm sorry, Brian.
No, you're okay. Chocolate, I talked in all day into you, to be honest. Let me give you another example. They go out and they survey the land. They use parallel verticals and parallel horizontals. They survey from the east to the west coast of America and back. Right? There's a lot of mountains, hills, and valleys. Right? All being referenced to a horizontal plane. And then, because they didn't measure curvature, they add or. Because they know the curvature was there. Yet they specifically did not measure it while they were measuring. Do you know what I mean? They just add the or value to their measure.
Yeah, there's got to be a reason we couldn't measure it. What could that reason be? It can't be that it's not there to measure. It's got to be something else.
We were too busy measuring to measure it. That's what it is. You know, we didn't notice it because we were so busy measuring. There's so many precise measurements that we didn't notice all the curvature that we were not measuring. So we just added it in anyway, because we know it's there without ever measuring it. That is the same thing as, well, they don't bend, but because we know it's a globe, they must have bent. You know what I mean? It's like the radio, microwave signals don't bend, high frequency signals don't bend, but because we know it's a globe, then they must be bending. You know, it's a case of belief over fact.
Well, instead of talking about that, let's talk about beam divergence and diffraction instead of the problem. We'll talk about that for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it.
Go on.
Oh, I was going to say, and at the end of it, say that, yeah, see, there was Earth curve there. You know?
Well, the beam would have had to have bent because the Earth is a globe. I mean, it does work, and the Earth is a globe, so it proves a globe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, just ignore the 45 minutes I spent telling you why there can't be any Earth curve there. And then I'll conclude with, obviously there's Earth curve there.
Yeah, don't put McKeegan in charge of communications because he'll have all the transmitters in valleys.
Triangles does that all the time, though. Not always, but he contradicts himself in the first half of the video and then concludes the opposite. I've seen him do that several times.
Yeah, he does. He's a train wreck. He goes around in a circle. See, I don't think he's outwardly dishonest himself as a person. I think that the globe has forced him to lie. Go on, Charles.
I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna say it's not really just him per se. It's all of them, because this is the nonsense that they have to defend. So they're forced. They're forced into a corner of having to try to relay their beliefs to us while simultaneously taking those beliefs away. So when somebody comes here and says, yeah, of course we measure Earth curve, but we measure it flat because it's too big. I mean, you're talking to somebody who literally is fighting themselves in their brain with a belief and the reality. It's funny to hear, like, in real time when these people say this shit. You know?
Yeah.
It's insane, to be honest.
Belief over fact.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't know. Is belief is acceptance without evidence. But we're talking about acceptance with contradictory evidence. So
Super belief.
Like, yeah, this is like
Super belief.
No, this is delusion. This is delusion. We're talking about delusion. People are delusional.
Yeah. Yeah, you're talking about brainwash. You know, someone being brainwashed. Because, like, the thing about it is this, right? McKeegan, who I don't think is a bad guy, I actually reckon he's probably a good guy, right? More than likely. Now, I would say that if you ever hear of a company called McKeegan Communications, do not invest in that company because it's going down the drain. He'll have all these transmitters in valleys. But other than that, right, other than that, McKeegan's probably not a bad guy. I don't think he's bad. But he has been forced to lie. He's been forced to be dishonest. He's been forced to ignore a contradictory, obvious facts. Not contradictory, just facts. And just go with it. You think so? Yeah, because if he's going to continue on the globe thing, microwave signals have to bend. High frequency signals must bend.
They all have to force themselves. That's what it is.
I don't think
nobody's forcing them. Nobody's forcing them. They're forcing themselves because they take up the mantle of having to defend the globe, which is already on its face indefensible.
Right, but what I'm saying is, I don't think he's doing it I think they really believe they're on a sphere, Brian. I'm sorry. I think they believe all the consensus they get, and they're fighting for something that they really believe is happening. He thinks all of this is real.
I don't disagree with you, Neil. But the point is that he has to tell himself that 1,000 white lies. You know, that's how he justifies it. And it's only a small little thing that's, you know, this time it's that microwaves don't bend. You know, high frequency signals don't bend, but they must have bent because we know the outer globe. So that solves that problem. So yeah, we know they don't bend, but they have to have bent this time. Do you know what I mean? And he's able to make that work inside his own head, and then he goes, anyway, on to the next topic.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's one of those 1,000 white lies.
There's that, and then there's the like the drive of the consequences of accepting the obvious nature of reality, because there are consequences.
There it is. There it is. Once you do that, you have to relinquish your belief in a globe, and they're not willing to do that. That's why the Black Swan is so devastating.
Why do you think when reality hits them in the face, they have to switch up? It's the beautiful example of reference frames and Coriolis, right? We have reference frames. We know that there's a differential in reference frames, right? Until they're asked to display that or demonstrate that in reality, all of a sudden, what happens? Oh, the atmosphere and the earth are rotating together, taking away the very thing that you needed for the prior claim. And that'll come out of the same person's mouth in less than a second. That is a form. That's a form of like, I don't know, psychosis, or I don't know what the word is. I'm not a doctor, but
delusion,
that's crazy.
I think, is the best one.
Delusion, maybe, yeah. I don't know, but if you could say that with a straight face and not know how you just messed your own claim up, then something wrong with you.
Well, think about what he said at the very beginning of this is, why do you waste your time talking about this? Right? He never did really give an answer to that, did he?
No. Well, obviously, to him, it's not a waste of time. He's doing it for some specific reason, or he feels some duty to do it, which is what I think most of these anti-flat earthers feel, like they have some duty to defend a belief, you know, and stand up against the people who no longer believe it.
Going on.
Like
what he said was just a reiteration of something that was said before by M. Scott Leach, I think it was, is that he knows that these straight lines curve or can curve because they can curve in a straight way. Do you know what I mean? They do curve when they curve in a straight way. And that's he gives himself such a convoluted, contradictory heap of nonsense to latch onto that there's just no making sense of it. And he can pull out of it anything he wants. It's just a mayhem statement where there's no order, there's no logic, there's no anything. It's just complete mayhem. The statement is a mayhem statement, if you understand what I mean. And he can make that exactly once then.
I think that they can't believe that it's still going on. That this topic is still relevant and that flat earthers are still out there and gaining ground. So this is a shock to them. So they have to come out with more videos.
Going on, it's growing daily at a rapid rate. Going on, it's been growing daily for 9 years now. Yep. 10 actually, if you have 10 actually years actually. So a decade now of it growing rapidly. And no matter how they try to stop it and hold it back, it keeps growing. So, and they're going to, I don't know why people are still wasting their time with this. With what? The truth. The truth is a waste of time, according to people like Dave. That's what he's saying, without realizing it.
Well, think about all the other stuff you'd have to wonder about if you accepted the Earth was flat.
Yeah. Everything else goes out the window. That's it. Glorious.
Well, everything wouldn't go out the window, but you would have to, be breaking everything.
I'm talking about I'm talking about heliocentrism. All their little fairy tale solar system. Bye-bye. No finding life on other planets.
But if you accept the authority was wrong, then you have to think, were they lying to me? Were they just ignorant? Is there another authority that's also lying to me or ignorant? There's a lot of stuff that comes with this.
Yeah, but they just have to come to the understanding that the government was governing their mind. Plain and simple, short and sweet. 1969 was supposed to be the death blow, and then with the television just constantly promoting this space and planets and life on other planets, and eventually we'll get there. Yeah.
The problem is the
government was
overreaction.
they were doing their job.
I think it's just slow and steady, the increase of the amount of people who are aware of this subject. But even if it is slow and steady, it's slow and steady over a prolonged period of time. And with that being the case, they've ramped up some of their deception. For example, aliens. And when you overswing or overcompensate, the quality goes down. And that works to their detriment, which is to say people laugh at it and think it's absurd, and it gives them more reason to step away from it. Amount of normies rejecting...
So you're saying it's hurting them?
Yeah, I'm saying that if you're a normie and you when Chocolate or I describe swinging the bucket around your head and going, that don't make no sense. I'll put it on the back burner for now. But that don't make no sense, right? Well, most normies don't do that at any stage, but if they do it because of aliens, then that's very detrimental when there's a good chance that next man might turn around to them and say, well, that's because we never went to the moon, space is fake. And they go, oh, that's why they lied about aliens or whatever. I'm saying if you try and overcompensate. NASA used to do well when they played their hand very close to their chest, and they've stopped doing that now. It's real because it looks so fake. Do you think NASA would have been saying that in the 80s and 90s? Right. Elon Musk might be playing the same long game for all we know, right? He's currently trying to drive the price of Disney down so he can probably purchase it, right? He can slate them and put them in a bad light and cause problems for him. He might be able to purchase them at a discount. Well, people like that with that much power always want more power. And if they've seen that there's a control of the people with a paradigm like heliocentrism, he obviously wants in on that paradigm, doesn't he? That to me says you can't be in on a massive multi-billion-dollar endeavour hoax when it comes to SpaceX and not know the end game. And the end game isn't getting to space, we all know that. The end game is control.
Well, I even have heard people I've listened to years back, way before getting to Flat Earth, way back, who would have been into the UFO topic and the aliens topic. And there, I've heard more than one of them who are big in those things. One guy and this other lady who are very big in that scene, right? Who are really well known, right? They've been on Discovery Channel and different things like that. And they are saying that aliens don't come from outer space. They come from here. They're from somewhere here within our own place. This is what they're saying. You know what I mean? And they're the biggest speakers. They are of the biggest speakers in it. And they're saying that. They would have been interviewing people like William Cooper and people like that. Do you know what I mean? Over the years.
Beeley?
And they're saying, sorry?
Have they interviewed Beeley?
No. But the point I'm making is you have people who aren't flat earthers, who are globe earthers and believe in heliocentric space and all that. And they're even saying there's no aliens coming from outer space. Even they're saying it. You know what I mean? That's how bad it's getting for them.
I don't know. What's next? Bigfoot believers telling us that it's just a man in a suit?
Well, I was listening to a thing there earlier today, or last night and today, about crop circles, right? I'm interested in whether they're true or a hoax or whatever. And some things were put forward that, because I've heard some reasons in the past why they can't be hoaxed, and it made a lot of sense. Then I've heard that, they've all been solved, it was all a hoax, but I didn't see any information about this. But I listened to this podcast where there was guys on this podcast talking about them who, some of them were American, and some are Canadian, and some were from England and Wales. And they were going through why they can't be a hoax, and there was all kinds of information they had about them. And I have to say, it was interesting information. And they talked about some of the frauds that were involved in trying to make them out to be a hoax and that, right? Different things. But what was interesting is these guys threw out these numbers that were connected, geometric numbers that were connected to these crop circles. And they started putting them together in a globe way, in a heliocentric way, and trying to make sense out of them. And I instantly found a latitude. Like the whole thing from these numbers, they were pointing to a particular latitude and probably a particular place on that latitude. I haven't gone forward with it. I just did a quick took their numbers and quickly went through a few bits very quickly. And right. And why did I do that? Because I'm not treating the Earth as a globe. So they're bringing stuff into it that has nothing to do with anything. So this mystery they have that they can't figure out, they don't know what's going on there. I could probably figure it out. You know what I mean? I could figure it out. Because they even started going into gematria without really realizing they should be referencing the number 9, and the numbers they gave were referencing number 9 without them knowing it. Do you know what I mean? So they have these mysteries they can't figure out, right? Why can't they figure them out? Because they keep thinking they're on a globe. If you want the answer to that mystery, you have to give away the globe. Do you know what I mean? I figured out I'd say about 70 to 80% of what this thing was, just within a moment, simply because I went, right, so this is that, we're not on a globe, so this is what it is, and it's that. So it's probably pointing at something on this latitude. Whoever done this thing, whoever made these crop circles that were pointing to this thing, I don't know what it is, but I know the message has nothing to do with the globe. You know what I mean? They have all these mysteries, they can't figure them out. It's just another mystery. Yeah, because you keep on thinking you're on this curved surface that's actually a flat plane. Do you know what I mean? You won't get to the bottom of your mysteries if you keep being that way. It'll always be a mystery that you'll never know why or how. You'll always be scratching the head, looking off into the heavens, going, "When will the aliens come and tell us?" They won't. You're supposed to figure that out.
Brian, are you saying that the people, whoever made the crop circles, were flat earthers?
Well, whoever made them, they knew the Earth is not a globe.
There was a time when you get laughed at when you mentioned aliens, but now the government comes right out and says there's aliens. Go figure.
Yeah, they'll probably start calling to your house if you start saying there isn't aliens. They might start calling to your house and saying you're pumping out this information. Expect that in the future. You know, rather than you saying there is aliens and the government trying to blacklist or badmouth you. If you say there isn't aliens, that's what they'll do now. Because everything's going backwards because they're desperate. Or it's on purpose, I don't know. Either way, that's what's going to come. Someone will say there isn't aliens and they'll be at their house.
Remember when 10th Man laid out the Great Deception? That alien encounter?
What?
Yeah, I mean, I heard of that a long time ago. I mean, yeah, they can. Like, I mean, the Great Deception is what might be like if there isn't aliens, which is some other intelligent life form like us. If there isn't aliens, then we're already in the midst of it, aren't we? You know what I mean? I mean, what Tent is talking about is them hoaxing that there will be aliens, but they're already doing it if there isn't aliens, if you understand what I mean. I don't know if there is or isn't aliens. I'm just saying they're already doing it.
So
It's really how you define the alien.
Oh, the 10th Man laid us out?
Yeah, remember we was talking about, but they're really demons. It was
You
a
mean
while
about
ago.
5 years after I laid it out on Nathan's channel?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
5 years before that, we knew about it too. We all knew about the Great Deception. If you're Christian, you know.
Ed? Interesting.
What did you say about it, Kiwi?
The Great Deception is the alien hoax. Is that what that
Correct,
is?
because there'll be people falling away from the church left and right if there's an alien encounter. They'll
Didn't we
throw
go
the
over
Bible
this
right
on,
out the window.
Go over this on your channel. Didn't we have a show? Is Nathan here?
He went to get coffee. He must have,
went to get coffee. All right.
He must have gone to Bristol.
Right, but what do you mean by alien? Is I guess
Outer space. They want some the other, planets that are out there, Mars.
No such thing. No such thing. Then you don't have to worry about
we
that.
know that.
I don't think that's what
That
Brian
doesn't mean there isn't beings that we're not aware of who are from the same flat plane we're from. We don't know that.
Well, I go according to scripture, and I don't hear anything about anything else out there.
Speaking of 10th, has anyone heard from him recently?
A couple weeks ago.
How's he doing?
It's 24-hour service. He has to take care of his wife for 24 hours, hands on, and it's that type of I don't want to say job because it's not a job. It's care.
I get it. Thanks.
That sucks.
You're getting pretty abrupt with me lately. What's the problem?
Yeah, that was pretty abrupt and rude. Like, you asked the question and Neil answered it and you went, "Get it. Thanks." Yeah.
I think because I might go on, but I don't go on as long as you go on, Brian.
I'll go on a bit, maybe.
Brian under the bus.
John
Right
spent a
under the
long,
bus. From seven.
Where's
John spent a
Daniel?
long time.
I
John
brought
spent
up
a long
something.
time. Hold on, I just want to say, John spent a long time in the military where concise information is really important. So he just, I don't know if you'd call it abrupt, intentionally trying to hurt somebody. He just wants the information.
We found your
Oh, he
simp,
don't
Huey.
hurt me.
We found your simp.
I was just gonna say, Refracted is the biggest white knight of QE that I've ever seen. Why he white knight for you more than I white knight for Brian.
White knight for Brian. You just threw me under the bus a minute ago. Some simp you turned out to be.
But I like when you go on because I'm getting it. It takes about 10 or 11 times before I get it. See, I'll tell you what QE is. QE is the guy that looks at it and gets it and expects everybody else to get it like that. It don't happen like that.
That's not
You're
true.
blessed with that. Everybody else is not.
That's not true.
It's true in a lot of things. Let's be honest.
I seen it happen in real time. A guy was trying to make a claim, and John was just trying to get him to clarify what he's actually claiming. And the guy acted like John was getting rude with him. You know, that's usually what happens. Except they threaten to tear off their head and shit down their neck. Then he's getting a little rude. But that's, you know.
That's going to happen today, by the way. That scenario is going to play out today, later on today.
Their treatment coming.
You got a treatment.
I've been adding it for like 2 days now. You figured you'd run by it. Instead of just writing in the chat comments on Skype, is there a show? You'd figure.
Well, I don't do it. Well, wait a second. Last time I got yelled at because I was responding, and you said, stop responding. I'm trying to plug it. Okay, all right. So I'll just sit there. I did see it now that you mention it.
All right.
Speaking of releasing
I was
videos,
trying to get you to plug it.
When do you reckon I should release that 10-hour live stream to the public?
You asking me?
Soon.
Soon.
If I were you, I'd be focusing more on the show you have going right now.
Tell him, Brian.
Yeah, this would be the important one to focus on.
I am focused on it. What are you talking about?
I didn't see a live show in my feed today, so I don't know. It's like a like flip around my abacus to figure out what you guys are doing.
Should have been a live stream today. By soon, Neil, do you mean like tomorrow? Saturday? No, it's Thursday today, isn't it? Should I release it on Saturday?
Yeah, I'd say it's Saturday because that's a long one.
Saturday would be good. No ball busters.
What time should I release it? It's a 10-hour stream. Shall I do it at 2 in the afternoon?
9 in the morning.
Huh?
Hey, Nathan,
9 in the
try
morning.
releasing it as an A and B. Like, do what Brian's doing, but release it in 2 parts.
I can't do that. I've just got one recording.
7 a.m. my time Saturday morning. 10 hours later, you're still good.
I'd say 7 in the morning UK time. That way everyone can get it in the US and everything.
No, I'm going to release it.
Wait, what time is that for me?
I'm going to release it at 2 in the afternoon UK time, like the usual show time.
Yeah, but then it won't finish until 12 o'clock Saturday night.
Yeah.
You want people to actually listen to it.
That's okay. 12 o'clock Saturday night, that's fine.
who's going to be listening to it at 12 o'clock on Saturday night?
Oh, there's dedicated flat Earth debate people out there. They will listen. If you build it, they will come.
I have a question. Where is most of your viewing audience located? In the States or in Europe? Or do you know?
I couldn't tell you. I haven't looked for ages. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look.
So, QE, what do you think about these missiles that go around the curvature of the Earth?
I don't think anything about it. Was that the show's topic today?
Sort of.
Well, Dave McKeegan was... Sorry, come on.
I just said sort of.
Sort of. I missed it. Need the background information. What I think about him? Fairy tale.
The Kinnikinnick missile.
Earth's flat.
What's the name of the missile that they were talking about, or the technology? Kinnikinnick or something? Knickerbocker?
Neil, your information on what was being talked about is pretty bad. That's fair.
What is it?
I was just like, what missile?
It sounds like Knickerbocker to me.
It was the Orville
Was it-
Redenbacher
Humor
system.
him.
The
Yeah.
Orville
That's
Redenbacher.
right. That's correct, Neil. It was the Knickerbocker missiles. Yes, that's correct. You've basically got it pegged.
No, tell QE the real name so he knows, because he's military.
You got the right name. Knickerbocker missiles.
What does that have to do with anything? Just because I'm military and they're purportedly have a missile that goes around their fairy tale ball-tard, that doesn't automatically make me interested.
No, I'm talking about the name.
You think I'm interested in the name?
I think you might be familiar with the name, because that's the first time I've ever heard of it.
It's from something from World War II. What Neil is saying is you're about 118 years of age.
I don't think it was a missile firing system. I think it was a guidance for bombers.
Yeah, that too. Doesn't matter what it was.
Okay.
It had to take
Consider
into
nobody
account.
else will fill him in. My God, I'll have to do it. I thought Nathan was going to say it, and he didn't. Then John didn't say it. It's QE. It's a guidance system for bombers where they're using microwave signals. And it was a video Taboo Conspiracy made that Dave McKeegan was responding to, because Taboo Conspiracy Ben pointed out, that it was that the main person on the British side, it was a German thing, it was a German system. The person on the British side said, that can't happen because of the curvature of the Earth, because they'll be using high frequency signal, right? Like microwave, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Dave McKeegan was pointing out how Ben Taboo Conspiracy was totally dishonest with his audience, and about how microwaves do bend around the curve of a globe. And he even he was putting transmitters into valleys.
He put a transmitter on one side of the curve of the Earth and the receiving person, if you will, on the other side of the curve of the Earth. I repositioned it contextually and said he's got a transmitter in a valley, which effectively he has.
Basically, he says, Dave McKeegan claimed that microwaves bend. They're not straight line. That's what he said.
Diffracts.
Yeah, but that was the word he was using because he didn't know what he was talking about. How the microwave bends. But the whole point, he was claiming a high frequency beam bends around the globe. That's what he was claiming. Because when he says diffracts, what he's thinking about is an atmosphere. Do you understand? That is diffracting the beam around it. That's what, when he says diffracts, that's what is going through his head. This wave is being diffracted. So That was the live show, Kiwi.
And therefore making the problem that we thought is a problem not really a problem at all. Look at that. Hey.
Well, it worked, chocolate. So therefore, it went around the curve.
What microwaves can't bend. High frequency beams don't bend and can't bend. But because we know it's a globe, they must have bent. That was the. If you want to know, that's the actual outcome. Q.
Right. It worked. So that means they bend around the Earth. Beautiful.
And
well done,
he
McKeegan.
He used a little bit of deception as well, because he went into the more finer points of this German system, and he says what they actually did, what the Germans also could do, and they used within this system, was they used two overlapping beams to help the pilot get accuracy, right? And he said, but they were lower frequency beams, but lower frequency in relation to the frequencies he was talking about. This doesn't mean they're not also VHF, right? It just means it might be slightly lower, and he gave two figures that were slightly lower than the original high frequency figure, but they were still high frequencies. Do you understand what I mean? It's like McKeegan was trying to, he just said these lower frequencies, but lower frequency in relation to what, McKeegan? I mean, I could say, well, it's a lower frequency than in relation to a very high frequency, microwave. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
VHM,
like,
UHF, right? Very high mega.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like he was trying to make it out as if they were trying to allude to them using low frequency radio. When the whole point of the process is that it required high frequency beams for accuracy. Low frequency was not going to do it because it spreads out. High frequency concentrated beams. And he was trying to make it out that somehow they were he alluded to them using lower frequency. A couple of lower frequency. They were lower frequency. What does that mean? How much lower? You know what I mean? How many hertz lower, whatever, were they? You know what I mean? Like, they weren't. They were still high. The two beams he was talking about were still high frequency beams. They were still in the high frequency bracket. They just weren't at the same frequency as the original beam he mentioned.
That's amazing. Were they going past the horizon?
Oh, they were bending around the globe, yeah. According to Dave.
So how could they have horizons on a globetard?
Well,
see what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you feeling me?
Are you talking about rate of slope? Or are you talking about their horizon?
Well, do they see horizons?
Well, technically, no.
Oh, they don't see horizons then. Well, then they're delusional.
Well, what they would call an horizon is not what an horizon is.
I don't care. It doesn't matter what they call them.
Yeah, but you're asking a question. You're asking me, and I'm just giving you the answers. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No.
There's no horizons on a globe.
Exactly. Do you catch my drift? Anyone?
Yes. Rate of slope, 0.
Is that an apparent drift?
Nah, it's not an apparent drift. It's like don't follow the tail of the incoherent dog. Right? You kill him with simple elegance. Oh, just megahertz, and now it's lower megahertz, higher megahertz. Oh, it's bouncing off the ozone. It's no. No.
Yeah, but what you're saying there would be.
Yeah, but that's how we put everybody to sleep, QE.
I mean, that's literally the first thing I thought of when he started talking about proving a globe. I mean, I don't know if it's just a reflex now or whatever, but like when I hear that, it's like proving a globe that came from flat Earth elevation angles. Okay.
Or you could go that route.
So you're proving a globe that came from a flat Earth. Okay. Continue.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I was given a rendition of what happened, and then I got critiqued for that rendition. That's completely unfair.
Who critiqued you?
Well, you allowed me to give the rendition. Then you said, What you need to do, right, or you guys need to do, including me, is you need to talk about the horizon. It's like,
No.
we weren't in a debate with the McKeegan.
No. I was just pointing out a larger point. I didn't ask you to give a rendition of what Dave McKeegan said.
Or we could talk about how Rob Durham thinks you're wrong.
Oh, yeah. Fuck, I forgot about that.
Got a comment on
happened to
this
that?
live stream already. Frequency and wavelength isn't. Aren't. Frequency and wavelength isn't derived from refraction patterns. A radio signal has both frequency and wavelength, whether or not there's any diffraction. And diffraction does, by definition, cause waves to curve, spread out, caused by an aperture or obstacle. Dave M is right.
Waves. Waves of what?
Forget about that. Let's get on to Durham. Adam's here.
All right, good. Ready.
Well, I filled him in briefly, but I was hoping Adam could fill him in more. I'm driving and delivering.
About what?
I was telling him about the Rob Durham thing.
Yeah, I've not had a chance to speak to him because I was watching football last night. But he did offer to talk to him, but I said, no, I'm watching football. So I'll try and talk to him at some point in the next day or so, just to find out what his point is. I'll quote you there. QE said, you set it to north. That's incorrect. It finds north and holds it.
Yeah.
So that's what we're seeking clarity on.
So I was right this morning. That's what I said.
No, magical pixie dust from Gondor.
What was it? I missed it.
Rob's
Say that again?
proposing that it finds its own north. It finds it by itself. How? What mechanism? I don't know. We covered this in the pre-show, but yeah.
It finds grid north by itself. That's a concept. So you got something mechanical finding concepts. Really?
Hello. It finds gyroscopic north. Are you dumb?
It finds gyroscopic north. A good one.
You're taking a piss out of Rob Durham, and he's a well-respected guy. Let's hear what he has to say. Adam, get him on the horn.
Yeah, Adam.
Yeah, Adam.
Yeah, Adam. Interrupt his day and get him over here now. Neil needs him to be here.
Suspect he may be at work.
So am I.
Oh, brother.
Well, we'll get to the bottom of it eventually. But if I have to put my money on something, I'm going to put my money that QE's right.
Listen, QE is 100% right because there's only one north, and that's magnetic north. The gyro compass is specifically made to not find magnetic north because it on purpose is not made as a magnetic instrument that will find magnetic north. So it can't find north and then hold it. It can't. It's impossible.
All I'm saying is this. I've never used one, and the guy's got one in his house. So I want to hear
Did
what
you
he
hear
has
what
to
I
say.
said about it there night? Did you hear what I said when I researched it back in 2016? Did you hear all the stuff I said about it?
Yes, I did, but I'm saying the guy's got one in his freaking house. I just
Yeah,
want to
but
hear what he's got to say.
yeah, but the problem is that it could elude, it can fool people into believing it's doing something it's not actually doing. That is because the rhetoric around it gives people that impression.
Can it fool them? Sneaky gyros. Sneaky gyro.
So you think Rob Durham doesn't know that?
Let's spend half an hour divining Rob's cognition processes. Let's go.
Rob is using a very up to date gyro compass that has software installed and other things. I don't know the full extent of what he has within his gyro compass. On my prediction, it's a fiber optic gyro, not a mechanical gyro. The whole point is this all goes back to the original gyro compass, right? And what it did, and every other gyro compass after that is the same thing, just maybe with different things. Like I said, a mechanical now it has fiber optic gyro. Doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Doesn't matter if it's the original Sperry Mark 1 or the brand new fiber optic one from 2024 model from Sperry. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It doesn't find north. It can't do that. The whole point of them is they don't have any magnetic compass. That's the point of them.
Well, I'm glad we got that cleared up. As Neil says, if he has got one in his house, it's very important we hear what he's got to say about it.
Robert One may have GPS capabilities that he may not even be aware of. I don't know. I mean, if he says it knows where north is, or has software in it that will predict north. Do you know what I mean? It might be prediction type software that will be somewhat reasonably okay. Do you know what I mean? Based off of known information. Do you know what I mean?
Which north are we talking about?
Well, have to be direction of magnetic north because that's how he would check it. How is Rob going to check this? He's going to use a magnetic compass, isn't he?
Yeah, but that's not the claim of the Baltards. The Baltards' claim is it finds true north.
Yeah, but that's because they don't understand. Right? This whole thing about magnetic north and true north being two different things is a load of bullshit. Sorry for the language. There's only one north.
Well,
north is only one thing.
No. There is true north. Now,
true north.
It's conceptual, but it's used in like apps and shit.
Right. let me throw this at you. They're claiming the magnetic north is moving around.
Yeah.
At present, they're claiming it's on the coast of Russia. Right. I have confined absolutely zero evidence for that. I've looked and I've tried to find evidence that this magnetic pole, as they call it, moves around. I have found no evidence that what they call grid north and magnetic north are not exactly the same thing in the same place.
They're not.
Well, if you look at magnetic declination and how it manipulates things, you have to start asking, how is this? I found no evidence. I looked, I could find no evidence that the two are not exactly the same.
Well, I'm your evidence.
How would you prove to me that the two are different?
Well, it's very easy. I found my location through navigation by adjusting magnetic to grid and grid to magnetic. So it's a man-made convention, is what we're talking about here. And,
Okay, but
and cartography.
yeah, but you have to understand that the cartography is based around the pre-assumption that there is two different norths. The coordinates.
That's more or less what I'm saying, kind of. It's more complicated than that.
Because
does sound from what
they
Brian
are
said quite circular though.
Say again?
Sounds circular. If one concept's derived off the back of the other and you've got two separate things that the other is, you know, has to be in effect to give you the conventions and maps and territories to come up with this convention of, which one was it? Grid North?
Yeah, it's Grid North. It's what all the topographical maps in the military
What I
mercators.
just listen along to, they're the same thing from what Brian's just gone through.
They're not because I made some pretty drastic changes in magnetic. I've done this for years, man. Always came through, so I don't know. Maybe it's magic.
Yeah,
Pixie.
no, what the point I would make is that the coordinates they're going to give you in the end are the coordinates that will fit magnetic and what they're calling true north to be different. That's my point, because what true north is...
They don't give me coordinates. Who are they?
Well, you have information, don't you? You have information.
No, I got a map.
Yes, which is information. What's that map based off of? What projection of the Earth is that map based off of?
The universal transverse Mercator.
That's a globe projection.
I understand that.
Yeah, so true north, as they call it, is a globe true north. That doesn't make...
but the globe projection, that's a globe projection of a flat Earth.
No, because the flat Earth part came first. They turned it into a globe, then they turned it into the universal transverse Mercator.
What you just said.
And then they turn it back into a globe. They go from globe to Mercator, globe to Mercator.
Yes, that's you're in agreement. Let's move on. That's the point. You agree with each other, yes. Move on. Does still seem circular, like the same thing to me. I don't know where I'm missing something, John. Huey.
John Huey or John?
You.
Not circular to me. I just found my position probably into thousands of times. And navigated quite successfully. And if I did it any other way, I've been loster. It's this thing. Lost one. This is lost 3. Or you lost 2 over?
Sure, but
it would have been like
if you've got a measurement of Polaris giving you the latitude system, and that latitude system being projected onto a ball, and then giving you the transverse Mercator with Grid North, then that system of Grid North come from the original derivation of the measurement of Polaris. That's the steps, isn't it? They're the same thing, as far as from what I'm hearing from Brian. I'm just repeating myself now. I'm missing something clearly.
Yeah.
No, the north, what they're calling geographic north. Because when the ballers say grid north, that means that they don't know what they're talking about. Because grid north is different from geographical north.
No,
when they say grid north, there's
well, they
magnetic
might
north,
be,
geographic north. Sorry?
You saying the ballers? Who are they?
We're talking about the gyro, aren't we? The sentience and the
but
gyro.
I'm trying to lay something out. There's 3 norths. Actually, I think there's 4. There's 4, but there's 3 norths. Grid north, there's geographic north, which is based off of the point where all the longitude points meet at the north of the globe, and magnetic north.
And
there's the 3 different norths.
Does the gyro know which north we want it to point to automatically or not? Does it know that?
No, it can only be. It doesn't point. It gets pointed. Yes. How do you set a gyro compass? With a magnetic compass.
There's
That's a fact.
Magical computer pixies inside the gyro that point it north when you spin it up. That's how it works.
No,
Gyroscopic north.
that's you have to rub its gimbals with the pixie dust from Gondor. You left
Don't
that
be
out.
absurd. You just spin it up, and the gyro points north. It's magic. I don't know which part of it actually points north. Is it the cage? Is it the gyro? Is it spinning north? What the hell?
Are you talking about mechanical or light gyro?
Mechanical. Just in
Like
keep it in the
fibre
most basic terms with a gyro compass.
Yeah,
Right, I would assume
it's the right-facing axis. It's the north-facing axis, what they call the north-facing axis of the gyro. So they're using a gyro. Vertically.
Yeah, so you're pointing the cage, right?
Yeah. So the north-facing axle is connected by a sprung wire to the zero on the compass card, and the zero on the compass card is what they point towards north with a magnetic compass.
That makes perfect sense. But you've got to do that's a process, isn't it? Now, don't get me wrong. I don't doubt that you could have an automated process. In other words, you have something else within the system that can reference north, and then you tie the two together and make it automated. But that's still a process.
Yeah, that's what I think is happening with Rob's one. Because like Rob is not a fool. So I think what's happening with Rob's one, a lot of it is that there's software involved in Rob's one. And I reckon the software is predicting where north is because it's predicting stuff to do with the magnetics of magnetic north.
Or I'm just guessing
where that will be.
Or just maybe it's got a compass in it.
Can I add something?
Well, maybe it has it could have just a compass in it, like GPS. See, that's what I'm saying. Is it connecting to GPS? Because it doesn't need that Wi-Fi to connect to GPS. This is my point. It could have a little receiver in it.
You could.
GPS information.
It just seems silly. I'm just saying, Brian. I mean, I don't know anything about this. That's why I'm getting laughs because it's easy to mock when you don't know. But I'm just saying, in the most simplistic terms, right? With a puddle, a leaf, and a bit of wire, I can get north. It's the most crude system there is, and it's so easy to utilize. Would it not make sense to just have a compass in it?
Yes, it would. But I'm trying to say something. If you let me finish, I'm trying to give you information. It may have a compass in it, or it may not have a magnetic compass in it. It might just have a connection to GPS and similar systems, which will then tell it what direction north is. Because GPS receivers have compasses or get information. Do you mean? But GPS receivers themselves have compasses. So yeah, if it has a GPS receiver in it, then it has a compass, I suppose. But either way, if it just gets GPS information, the information will be enough to tell it what direction north is, where north is. Do you know what I mean? Software, if there's software in it, then you don't know what way it's programmed. So the point is, the only way it's going to know where north is by referencing magnetic north. There is no other north. I don't care how many other norths they try and make up. There is one north. Go on, sorry.
The geographical north is based on the celestials. Yeah. East to west is the sun's movement, and Polaris is north. The magnetic north is a different thing. The geographical north is based on the celestials.
Yeah, when Brian said they think that there's only geographic north is magnetic north. Who were they?
Gyroscope pixies.
Now, who were those people? Were those anti-flat earthers or clovers?
The ballers. I've had it with them.
Anti-flat earthers, right?
Yeah, they don't. A lot of the time, they don't know the difference between grid north and geographic north.
Yeah, okay. Now that makes sense. See, you had to define the they. So that, they're morons.
Yeah,
all right.
They'll mix that up.
I'll catch flat side.
Meanwhile, Rob Durham's got one on his table in his house.
Is he going through rough seas?
You know,
No, I'm
Neil,
saying
there are some people that have satellite dishes connected to their roof or somewhere
that's
in their
different.
house.
That's different.
Does that mean that these things are connecting to washing machines that are floating around above our heads?
That's
In
different.
a second law of thermodynamics violation?
No, that's different. That's
Is it?
that's a
You're
bad
getting
analogy.
rumpus. You're getting rumpus.
Different. That's different. I'm just saying. We're telling a guy, it's like me. I have a bass guitar in my house, and you're telling me you've never played the bass, and you're telling me how it works. That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, we could if we understood it conceptually, and you not playing the bass ever. You just got it in your house.
Yeah, but there's certain things about this bass that are a little different.
Well,
And
Bob,
you
the
might not know
pseudoscience.
the intricacies of the bass.
Well, Bob, the pseudoscience fallacy guy, has a sextant in his house, and he doesn't even know what a triangle is.
He's not allowed to even say the word sextant.
Did anybody
All right.
see? Did anyone catch Flatsoid talking to that guy that we covered indirectly? So Flatsoid had "You Are Mopped," who interviewed Simon Dan. Did anyone catch that?
Plead the fifth.
Nope.
Plead the fifth. Did you say?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to spin through because when he was talking to Dan, he didn't actually disclaim his position. He was interviewing Dan, so that's fair enough, right? But I tracked down the bit in Flatsoid's chat with him where he basically disclaims his position. So why doesn't it pause whenever I press the timestamp? Really irritating.
Internet, you can sort of hide behind the screen kind of thing.
Everything seems to be pretty well explained. A lot of people wouldn't be so by the globe model. Right. Rude to each other if they were face to face, I suppose, and studied physics. Would probably get along just fine in many cases. There'd be a lot more respect.
But I mean, even with me, when I usually talk.
Sorry, I had two instances playing by accident. Sorry. Let's just try that one more time.
Everything seems to be pretty well explained by the globe model, right? So, and I've studied physics, and I'm into astrobiology, astronomy, just as a hobby, but everything, like I've taken the courses in physics and done the gravitational experiments and learned the equations and derived the equations. Everything works. Everything really works. And, to my mind, there's just, absolutely no reason to question any of it because it all works, right? We have the most amazing technology and satellites and, it's just too much. Like I would need a lot of evidence that would, one, have to explain the world that we observe better than the globe model in every way. The globe model seems to do it perfectly. And then, if there is a cover-up of any kind, that, that requires a lot of evidence and explanation and motive. Like, I don't see any of that, right? So, like...
There you go. That was it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we see the model?
That's the point where I pleaded the fifth because I lost my friggin' mind.
So I broke this down just so I didn't have to put any effort into responding to it now. So I thought if I just type it out on Flatsoid's video as comments, I'll just read my way through them if that's okay by you guys. So I timestamped the first one just so I could find it again to do it now. I'll leave him on screen while I do it rather than... That's why I had two instances open. Okay. Everything seems to be pretty well explained by the globe model, end quote. Maybe use a couple more weasel words, buddy? The globe model came from measurements of a flat Earth, specifically the R value, which came from measurements of a star called Polaris and its minimum elevation angle. Your model, we don't live on a model, requires a flat Earth. That was my response to the first part. Next bit he covered. Actually, I'll go back to the beginning. We'll play each bit as we hear it. Let's just do that now.
Everything seems to be pretty well explained by the globe model, right? So, and I've studied physics.
I'm into physics. Category error. The ball you believe in isn't a cause and effect relationship. You obviously have no idea what science is.
And I'm into astrobiology, astronomy, just as a hobby. But everything, like I've taken the courses in physics and done the gravitational experiments.
Gravitational experiments. What would those be? There are no natural phenomena to study the cause of when it comes to gravity. It hasn't been a force for 109 years. Gravity is not a force, end quote, George Musa. There isn't really a force of gravity at all, end quote, Professor Brian Cox.
And learned the equations and
did he say astrobiology?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Is that
I was going to ask, is that a new discipline?
Say that again,
That's a
Chopper.
thing. To answer your question, that's a thing. Yes.
Okay.
I have the equations.
I derive the equations. So maths then, not physics. Yeah, do you feel like your science studies have left you in a strong position to talk about the maths? Because maths is abstract. It's not physics.
Everything works. Everything
works? Right? You mean your maths works? Abstract maths isn't physics, first and foremost, but study of the physical and natural world is physics. But your maths is just language. The only thing that's working is your gums flapping. Go ahead.
It's a logical fallacy, too. It's a pragmatic fallacy.
Ooh, pragmatic fallacy. Go ahead.
That's what it is. That's what it works. That's what that's a pragmatic fallacy. Think about it.
How
really
does
works, and-
astrobiology work?
If the model works, why do you have to invent dark matter and dark energy?
There's, to my mind, there's just absolutely no reason to question any of it because it all works. Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I've just given him a reason to question it, haven't I? Earth's measured flat, and your model depends on it. I mean, why the hell is this guy even here? He's just here to affirm his own biases, right? And confirm the unquestionable, because that's what he's basically disclaiming.
We have the most amazing technology and satellites in
a sky vacuum, following the motion
Washing
made by
machines.
measurements of a flat Earth. Yeah, when outer space is fake, you can't have gas pressure without a container. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Go ahead, whoever that was.
No, I was just gonna say washing machines floating around above our heads. That's what he believes in.
It's just too much. Like I would need a lot of evidence that would, one, have to explain the world that we observe better than the globe model in every way. The globe model.
Right, so I need a lot of evidence, like measurements of a flat Earth. Yeah.
No. Maybe he's not aware of his compadres telling us it's so biggy. There's no curvy. So which world is he observing that the globe actually explains? I'm confused.
So I was going to ask, what world is he observing?
Well, I have two things to say about it. The first thing, I was about to come in and say, I think George came in and said, present this globe model you're talking about, number one. And number two is, he says it would take a lot of evidence, but he doesn't know what evidence is. So how can you present somebody with evidence when they don't understand what evidence is? He thinks that what he's told about satellites and about other things is evidence for them being there. So how can you present someone with evidence if it's like showing a book on biology to a dog? No offense to the guy, I'm not calling him a dog. I'm just saying, the dog doesn't understand the biology book. So how are you going to expect the dog to understand what you're saying concerning it? He can't. He'd have to understand the biology book to understand what you're saying about it. You can't present evidence to someone who doesn't understand what it is.
to do it perfectly. And then, if there is a cover up of any kind,
who cares? It's an appeal to motivation fallacy. It's all this is.
That requires a lot of evidence and explanation and motive. Like, I don't see any of that, right? So, like you said, you believe people are doing a job honestly, but like, why would anyone have them do all this? This without the motive, I can't get behind it.
Yeah.
So that's it. Basically, this sums up this numpty. Yeah. Unless I get my fallacy satisfied, I can't get behind it. Pathetic.
Yeah, he's cleared the case up, fellas, so we could all just get out of here because he's derived all the equations, he's reviewed all the evidence, he's done the physics, so we could all just get out of here. Thanks, buddy.
Well, he said.
Yeah, but he also said that there's no without a motive. So the body's dead, but if there's no motive, there's no killer.
I'm not getting behind it.
Wow.
This man clutching a bloody knife covered in blood standing over the corpse. I mean, he had no reason to do this. I can't get behind this theory.
But the thing about it is that there's another thing I couldn't say at the start because I just couldn't get to the phone. Hands were wet. He says, I've researched, I've studied physics. Then he goes on and talks about astrobiology. You haven't. You don't know what physics are. If you knew what physics were, you wouldn't be talking about astrobiology. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't know what physics is to study it. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't know the difference between something that's actually physics and something that isn't physics. By his
Ryan,
own words.
maybe he dissected a star. We don't know.
I think Flatsoid saw all of these responses that I left, right? Essentially saying what I've just said now in response, but verbally. And Flatsoid's response was, yeah, it wasn't a debate, so I didn't correct things. It's just a normal conversation. That's what his response was. Flatsoid, that is.
Why?
Well, was that quote from the conversation with Flatsoid? Like, was that what he was telling Flatsoid?
Yeah, do you want to hear what comes straight after?
Sure.
We can't really divine
Yes,
some
please.
of the motives, but definitely one of the itching points I'd say based on it is to keep God away. I mean, they want to separate God because if you look into the history of even how the heliocentric model was introduced, it came from the Jesuits, from the Masons. You know, people staunchly into worshipping the sun.
So yeah, Flatsoid pushes his own agenda.
Why would he even go there? Why didn't he just take him to how Earth,
Because it's
celestial
conversation
navigation?
and it's not a debate.
Oh, I
why.
see. Yeah, but
Excuse me,
still, you
fellas,
want
just
to
one
let.
second.
If you're just having a conversation, that's the best time to tell them. Hey, it's measured flat too. Check this out.
Yeah,
You're going to tell somebody how to have their conversation with somebody else, man.
Exactly.
Come on.
It's not our place to do that. But I mean, I agree with you in that principle. If it were me, I'd have said, all right, so you're convinced it's a globe because all of these globe assertions in the globe model seem to work perfectly, end quote you. Yes, that's right. All of the globe model stuff seems to work perfectly. Well, that's just a testament to how flat it is then. Because if that model, which has come from flat Earth measurements, works really well, well, then the flat Earth measurements it's based on are working really well. Because we're not standing on the reified sphere that comes from those extrapolations of a flat Earth measurement. They're just a model. But the origin of that model is a flat Earth measurement, and you're saying that originally flat Earth measurement works out really well when you model it. That's interesting. And the model's spherical, you say? How interesting. Yeah, the Earth's measured and mapped flat, though, isn't it? And that model came from those measurements. So if they're proving how spherical it is for you, you're deceived. Because your model that you think works only works because of the measurements which were originally taken from a flat Earth. Wouldn't you know it? Your proofsy of a globe turns out to be a really good proofsy of a flat Earth then in that case. Just correct him. That's what I would do, but obviously I'm not Flatsoid. He wanted to tell him they're hiding God, which is up to him.
Yeah, but see, after you lay it out the way you laid it out, and then you want to mention the Jesuits and things like that, fine. But
Do
when
I?
you come right out of the gate with it, you sound like a nutter.
Hey,
But it's not
I didn't
necessary
say
to bring
that.
that into the
Flatsoid, I didn't
topic.
say that. That wasn't me.
Well, it's not necessary to bring that in. Your man talked about physics and then astrobiology and evidence and the globe model. They're all the topics I'd be focusing on. I don't need to start going into it's against a Bible or else. I don't need to do any of that. It's completely unnecessary to do those things. But that's like show he can do what he wants. But like,
Yeah, but
for
the
me,
guy brought it up though,
plenty out
Bri.
there but for me, the guy put out plenty to talk about, plenty to discuss. Because what Flatside brought up was kind of a red herring in some ways, and if you understand what I mean, it's away from what the guy put out there. Like, I think this, I think that, I think the other thing. Okay, let's go by what you just said. That's where a conversation goes. It doesn't. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, but he brought up
Nathan said an
motives.
agenda, maybe.
I think
He brought up motives.
The reason I put him out there is because, right, he has been and left his messages on the response video for Dan. And from memory, he even came by in the chat for the re-up on the second channel and left a few comments in the chat. So therefore, he's well aware of what we are, what we do, and his ability to join. And he hasn't, has he? He's not joined the server. He's gone to have a chat with Flatsoid. Now, obviously, I'm not suggesting for any second that there's any obligation on even you in the panel, let alone him. But I'm just saying, yeah, we have the highest degree of critique for what he has to say in response to Simon Dan, and in front of us, let's put it that way. But on the other hand, maybe Flatsoid's just that much more courteous and invited him on. I have no idea of the background, so maybe I'm being a bit presumptive. My point being that...
Nah, he's picking and choosing.
Of course, that's his obligation. That's his prerogative, right? But by the same token, he's well aware of us. Can we get can we get the cutting edge answers from the tip of the spear? As far as I'm concerned, you know who we are.
Nobody wanted
Excuse
to
me,
fight
fellas.
Mike
1
Tyson
second.
back in the day.
Neil, I hate to interrupt the conversation, fellas. There's a Danny Faulkner in the chat. He's unmuted. Maybe he wanted to say hi.
Hello, Danny.
You guys
if you
want
can
to say
hear
hi
us.
to Danny?
Maybe you just want to sound check. Hello, Danny. If you can hear us. Really not. Thanks for letting us know.
He's got a lot to answer to, Mr. Answers in Genesis.
Why have you got some questions for him, Neil?
Hey,
Yes, I
Mighty,
got a lot
where's
of
the guy
questions for
Jesse
him.
from yesterday?
Again? Come again?
Is Danny the gentleman that stood up in front of a congregation and said he can measure angles from hell?
Yes.
He is, yes. But clearly the Christians amongst the panel have got a bigger issue with Danny than I have. I mean, I can point out where obviously we don't measure angles in the center of the sphere that we don't stand on, but nevertheless, you know, obviously as a Christian that might have offended you more than I.
I want him to explain Isaiah chapter 10 to me.
I'm just glad you reminded me of something that we've covered about him, because otherwise I'd have nothing to talk to him if he does pipe up.
Yeah, Joshua bid the sun to stand still in the sky.
I don't see him. Where is he? I don't see him in VC. Where is he?
Might have gone already. I don't know. I haven't seen him.
I can't see him.
Hey, Mighty, where's that guy Jesse from yesterday? He said he's measuring Earth globe, not a flat.
Pound says that he's measuring it flat.
Yeah, this guy Jesse, he was on the Gerrans over there having some debate, and he was yesterday presenting in a Discord how Earth is not measured flat. He had proof. He measured it. Oh yeah, okay.
Have a look. Can someone grab this and stick it in Skype?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
Is this a guy who thinks that a mountain should stay its actual size at 105 miles away?
Yes, off a flat plane. Yes.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah. The guy who, his version of a measurement is a misunderstanding of what perspective is.
Yeah. He did it. He came in on the AMA, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was trying to do this dip. He tried to do a dip angle to the top of something that's actually higher than him, but
Yes.
it doesn't appear higher because it's after getting smaller with angular size. His argument is, how come it's not its actual size at 105 miles away?
Yeah, off a
In
flat plane,
appearance.
an actual size off a flat plane on a depiction showing it on a flat plane with heights, elevations off a flat plane with respect to sea level. So it's a flat Earth proof about 3 times over, and I remember going through it with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, both mountain heights are sharing the same base line.
Yeah, exactly.
And
It's embarrassing at this point. All roads lead to a flat Earth, and when we used to see these diagrams where they had horizontal eye level and parallel with surface level, we just didn't see it. We couldn't see the wood for the trees. It's amazing. Same with the Earth curve maths itself. It's got surface level and eye level right there in the maths, and you just don't see it. It just makes you feel so dumb. I shouldn't smile, but it does make me feel really stupid thinking back on the Isle of Man debates. It's right there in front of your eyes. It's even labelled. You know what I mean? We just didn't see it. All roads lead to a flat Earth. And
indeed,
the people who
if you try
don't
to
see
find...
it, if we who are looking for it didn't see it, like your car keys, if you ever have that and you can't find your car keys, say the thing you're looking for. It stops that. I can't remember the term for it, but there's a Socratic blocking or something like that where your brain can't see the thing in front of your face. Whereas if you say it, it helps to find it. So car keys, car keys, car keys. Ah, there they are, right in front of my face. But anyway, I've forgotten my actual point now with that stupid segue. What was my actual bloody point? Oh yeah, for the people who can't see the wood for the trees, that's us when we're looking for horizontal, parallel surface level and eye level in the Earth curve maths, right? We didn't see the wood for the trees. Well, in the same way, for the people who oppose us, they do it too. They see a demonstration that's claiming it won't work on a flat Earth. The actual size of the mountain doesn't change with respect to a horizontal plane of reference. But I can describe the difference with respect to a horizontal plane of reference and describe it as Earth curve. Therefore, Earth's not flat. And you go, you're describing all of these differences with respect to a surface level. That's where you've got the height of the mountains, and it's even in your diagram, you dumbo. You've got a flat Earth depiction, and you're telling me how it can't be flat with it. It's like you people can't see the wood for the trees, but now we have finally seen the wood when we notice someone stumbling their way through the wood going, where's the wood? I can't find it anywhere. We can laugh at them. Go, you're using a flat Earth, dumbo. Hello? What do you mean the mountain's 2,000 feet and the other mountain's 3,000 feet? What, off sea level? You're proving a flat Earth, clown shoes. These people are idiots. But so were we up until we started to see the wood for the trees.
Well, if I remember correctly...
What I was going to say...
Hold on, Brian spotted it 2 weeks ago. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Brian.
I just want to say, what I remember, if I remember, like the basics of what the claim was by this guy, Jesse, because I remember I addressed it in a video and it was addressed on QEs, was that perspective can't exist. Because what he was saying is, how come the mountain is not its actual size at 105 miles away? So when I look into the lens of the auto level, I don't directly, it doesn't appear that I'm directly meeting the mountain at 1/5 down from the top of it. Like if the two mountains are right next to each other, I would be. It's like, so it's not, perspective doesn't exist, so it must be Earth curve. While he's referencing perspective, it's so convoluted. Remember I said earlier about one of those mayhem thoughts that like the likes of Dave McKeegan has. A thought that's so convoluted that it's just pure mayhem, and you just pull out whatever you want. It's one of those. It's like, what are you going? Like, what is your thought processes with this? This is crazy. You know, It still boggles me that this guy came out with it.
But that was the original thought process that was told to us. We were told that perspectives didn't exist, that we were crazy for even saying it. Like, I distinctly remember being told that I'm crazy because perspective. It's like, perspective is a thing. But all of a sudden, it became not a thing and something to make fun of flat earthers for. Something that would only exist in art class.
Yeah. I remember them saying it to us, Chocolate. You were early on in the debate when they would literally... I'm sure I've got recordings of people saying that to us. That's just something in art class.
Yeah, I think that was P. Mars. If I remember, if my memory serves correct. But literally on this panel telling us that you guys are nuts. Perspective is not a thing. It's just something in art class and people use to make drawings.
To the point where they gave it a strapline and called it Flurfspective.
Yeah, exactly. That's where that came
Yeah, but
from.
didn't Kosho come in one time and say, "Oh, that's just perspective"?
Oh, he did one step better. He did one step better. He was looking at a boat that was shown to him on 24/7. I think you were there, Chocolate. And he's telling the person that the reason the boat is disappearing bottom up much sooner than Earth curve could be used to blame for it was because of a limitation to the angle. Couldn't make it up.
Come on, guys. I'm on the edge of my seat. Go!
That's good.
Right. If you try to find your latitude, yeah, your elevation angle, the baseline goes all the way to the GP of Polaris, regardless if there's a continent in front of you. Your baseline goes all the way to the GP. The same thing here with Jesse. He's just on his mind. The only thing in his mind is the mountains. If behind those mountains was a star or a celestial that he could identify, and if he knew the GP of that celestial, his baseline, it doesn't stop at the mountain. It goes all the way to the GP, regardless of whatever the topography is doing, in order for him to find his position, if that was the case.
I'll keep beating this drum.
The baseline
Latitude
is the key point here.
Absolutely. Latitude is the key point. It's one of the best flat earth proofs ever.
Yeah, latitude is the movement left to right or east to west, whatever you want to call it.
I just need to put something out there. When they used to say perspective is just something that happens in our class, what they turned that into then was an attack on us with our class perspective. Because our class would put the horizon at the center of, let's say, of a piece of canvas or whatever, and put it right across the center. Whereas in reality, the horizon is never going to be exactly across the center, because that's going to be what they're trying to depict the eye line. The horizons might appear to be at the center, but it won't actually be. And the higher you rise, the bigger the dip to the horizon will be, because your eye line is one horizontal plane, the water to the horizon is another. So it's two parallel planes they can't meet. But they want to try and then they try to use our class perspective. And this is your man, Jesse. This is what he would try and use against us with this nonsense with these mountains. He's trying to deny what actual perspective is in the real world. And probably the closest he'll get to it is perspective in our class. But the fact that you even admit that perspective is a thing in our class means that perspective is a thing, which means there is no Earth curve. You can't have Earth curve and perspective. Only one can exist. Mathematically, only one can exist. You'd make your choice. I know my choice.
Well, with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting me up on the Ko-Fi and PayPal links and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!